Welcome, everybody. This is Tricia.
And my name is Jason Thibeault.
And we are so excited to have you here. This is one of my absolute favorite programs to teach because there's so many familiar faces. A lot of our favorite people in the world are in the room right now. So that is super exciting. Welcome to Rack Friday. Thanks for joining us. You will have access to this recording for a very short period. But first, let's do some introductions. These are our formal pictures, okay? This is what we put out on LinkedIn and everything, but this is what we really look like.
Yeah, it's even my formal name, just so that everyone knows. All my friends call me Boat.
Right?
So now you've learned something new about me.
You have. So this is really what we look like. We always think it's funny when people just show professional pictures, but I'm guessing the vast majority of you know us pretty well. And who wants to come to a webinar where the speakers spend all their time talking about themselves, which we're going to kind of do a little bit today, but not in introductions, okay? So what we do want to know is who you guys are. So come into chat.
Give us just a little bit of an introduction, which is a scale of 1 to 9. Who are you and what are you doing here?
Yeah, it gives us a good sense of who we have in the room. So tell us who you are. And if you are a competitive recruiting trainer, own that business. Put that number 1 in there. I see you, David Marr. Right? It's very cute.
You know, while these are coming through, I have noticed anonymous questions and whatnot, so we might have to skip to some logistics.
Yeah, we'll get through some logistics, right? We definitely will. All right, so today's session should run for, about 2 hours. I mean, it could be more than that. It could be less than that. We'll see how we do with all of your questions. The recording will be available for this program through the weekend until Monday. So you'll be able to go back. What I would recommend doing is if there's a particular segment you want to revisit, write down what time it is so that you can just scan forward in the recording to get to whatever you need. Okay. Now I'm seeing questions already come through in the QA area, and I absolutely love that. We aren't going to have any breaks unless we desperately need a bathroom. That could happen. And if it does, we'll just call a random 5-minute break.
Likely you would never notice. We would just talk right through it and the other person would sneak away. In fact, right now, as far as you know, Trisha's very quick. Nope, it's just at the start of this. She would have gone already.
I would have. Likely there won't be any breaks. Okay, so there's a couple of things, and I can see what's happening right now in both chat and QA. So I've got a couple of questions that have already come through from an anonymous attendee. Sorry. If you have a question, you need to own that question, and it's got to have your name attached to it. So if you are asking a question and you're embarrassed to have your name associated to it, put it in chat and just send it to the hosts and panelists, and then we're the only one of no one will see it but us, right? So we won't answer anonymous questions. We don't do it, okay? So if you are the person, one of 2 people that have put anonymous questions in, so sorry, you gotta have your name attached to it, okay? Additionally, I'm seeing some AI note takers. Suzanne, I see yours in there. Get those note takers out.
Well, generally, we understand the purpose of them. You could just take notes yourself. The problem with any level of AI continues to be hallucination, and I'm not going to be held accountable for things I didn't even say.
Right. So we are actually, you're not going to love this, guys. What I am doing is scrolling through the attendees right now, and I'm kicking out your note takers. Sorry, Shane. Gotta kick it out. Right? So get your note takers out. We don't let AI in our classes. Isn't that so funny when we teach AI? But that's
one of the reasons why we know to boot them out.
Right. Now, what Thank you guys for sending in questions. We have pages of questions that you have sent in. We did not keep or capture who asked the questions, so I apologize that we're not going to refer to you by name.
Consider it accidental anonymity.
The other thing, some of you gave so much context in your questions that we summarized them a little bit, okay? So if you hear something that sounds like your question, but it doesn't have all the detail, that's on us, all right? If you sent a question in via email less than 30 minutes ago, we don't have it, and you need to put it into the QA session or the QA section of Zoom, please. Right?
And if you want it answered live, put it into the QA section of Zoom. If you put it into chat, it'll get lost.
It really will, because we want you guys to comment in chat, right? That's what we want. All right, so what is a random act of kindness?
It's a plan that we have. Wait, that's not at all random, but it's still a plan that we have where we choose to randomly do kind things for others. You have obviously paid nothing to be here. Kindness is not something you charge for. That's a product, and a random act of products would be wrapping. So I think that Tricia will demonstrate.
I will.
She's going to rap for us.
I'm not going to rap. I can't do that. I'd make a complete fool of myself. All right, so our objective for the day today is to first, Lance, you're right, to make the biggest announcement of our career. And then we're going to answer your questions and give you suggestions for any of the recruiting challenges that you're currently facing. So, guys, there are some big changes coming, okay? Really big changes. So take a deep breath. Here it comes. As of today, we are formally announcing our retirement. This is not a retirement from recruiting. This is retirement, full retirement. We're doing it, okay?
No asterisk, no reason not to. You know what? Yeah, we have built what we wanted to build.
It took like 10 years for Jason to teach me like what is enough, right? And we're there. We've got it. We've got what's enough. So if you guys will indulge me, I'd like to read something to you, okay? And I'm going to ask for a little bit of grace. This will be my 4th time reading it. And I still haven't made through it without tears. So let's just see if I can do it. Yeah, Jessica, at the height of AI, we sure are. Okay.
But don't worry. And also worry.
Yes. All right. So we are retiring, and there really isn't an asterisk. Athletes and rock stars do the fake retirement thing, and going out of business is an age-old marketing ploy. We've played our stages. We aren't going out of business, but our decision is final. You've probably heard us say that we only work because we love it, and we still love it, but we decided to remove the work part from our work-life balance. A life of just the balance sounds lovely. We've been recruiting for decades and have been bringing you our often counterintuitive techniques through stages, webinars, and coaching for the last 16 years. So many stories, analogies, scripts, techniques, and in all that time, what mattered most to us wasn't the content, it was all of you. We watched you show up again and again. We watched you find the courage to try new things and to grow as recruiters and humans. Some of you went all in and allowed us to transform your firms and your lives. Some of you joined us for every single Rec Friday.
Woohoo!
And we only heard about our impact when you let us know of your celebrations. You guys learned sourcing before anyone understood Boolean, and you learned AI when Gemini was still Bard. And through it all, you continued to teach us. It would be impossible to count the number of times I said, or maybe I'm just coaching myself right now. We spent countless hours talking about how to better serve you in each of your situations, and you've played such a large part in our lives, even when you weren't with us. Your wins always felt like our wins. The number of times your successes made it to our celebrations with our coaches was a lot. Big retainers, breakthrough moments, revenue jumps that changed your lives. We've always been deeply, deeply invested in your success, and watching you realize it has brought us great joy. We believe training sticks better when it's fun and funny, and you returned that energy. It has always been fun to struggle to teach when chat has gone completely off the rails, full of jokes. The number of virtual candy bars we'd have thrown you for making us break character and laugh is silly to imagine. You trusted us with questions around sourcing, messaging, strategy, BD, AI. You also trusted us with some of the hardest moments and seasons of your careers and your lives. And there were many times that we privately shed tears for you as we vicariously lived through your trauma next to you. You've allowed us into your desks and your lives, and we've received no greater gift in our lives. Thank you. And this is the part that's a little bit difficult to say. We'll miss the live classes. We'll miss the rooms. We'll miss the questions that made everybody stop and think. And we'll miss watching things click for you in real time. We'll miss the energy of learning together and figuring it out side by side. And if you're hearing this and you're feeling a little sad, we feel it too. We'll miss you too. So what's next? We're not totally sure. I want spaciousness and the luxury of waking up with no alarm clock. Jason wants to go to aviation school and earn his license for airplanes and gyrocopters, which he insists are safe. We both want to travel, take aimless walks, read fiction, maybe write fiction, and generally have the flexibility to go wherever this world takes us. We're looking forward to whimsy, relaxation, learning, and exploring. And we wouldn't be here without all of you. Thank you for the trust that you've put in us. Thank you for sharing your challenges, your stories, your laughter, and your wins. Thank you for letting us be part of your careers and your lives. We will miss you more than you realize. With love and so much deep gratitude, us. So thank you for indulging me. Thank you so much for letting me share that with you. You can.
So Shane arrived late. Shane, we're retiring.
Shane, we're retiring. All right, so if you go to our website, I'm going to throw the link out in chat for you right now. Okay, so if you go to our website, I want you to see, you can scroll through here. Here's how you will get to what I just read you. Okay, this is our personal goodbye. And you just heard this whole thing. Thank you again for indulging me. But there's something else that's really important that we're doing. Jason and I have been, as many of you know, sometimes perhaps a little cost prohibitive for the recruiting industry. We have the best training anywhere around, and we have charged accordingly for it.
Hoo-yah.
Which is probably why we can retire. What we've done as a random act of kindness for the entire industry is we have compiled every single bit of our training into what we're calling the complete library. And I'm going to show you on the web page very quickly. If you go to Offerings Complete Library and you scroll down here, there is a video. In this video, you'll see it is just shy of 30 minutes. Yes, that's me on camera. And then we walk you through everything that's in it in the second half of the video. I would highly encourage you to watch this video, but I am going to just very briefly show you what this is, okay? It is our entire business development client cornucopia program with all of the supporting documentation and contracts and proposal templates and scripts and messaging and word tracks. All of that is then divided into micro learning modules for you. And then there's something called deep learning. Every single Tuesday for the last 4 years, Jason and I have gone live with our group and private coaching clients, and we've gone deep into a topic around the recruiting industry. Here is deep learning just for business development, okay? You can go, when you go to the video on the website, you will absolutely be able to pause and be able to read this a little bit more in depth, okay? I'm gonna try and go a little bit faster here. Then we have the recruiting full training program, all the supporting docs, the recruiting deep learning. There's a ton of recruiting focused deep learning. All of these are like an hour to 2-3 hour sessions. Now, Shane, is Shane in here still? I hope that he is. Shane Fairchild was the reason for this entire program right here, How to Eliminate Fall-Offs. A couple of years ago, Shane had, and I'm sorry, Shane, to share this failure with everybody.
Not his fault.
Shane had, if I'm remembering correctly, upwards of $400,000 in fall-offs. Look at that, almost $500,000 in like a 3 or 4 month period, 19 offers, all counter offers. So he came to us, we were privately coaching him, and he said, what do I do with this? And so Jason came up with something that is so counterintuitive. It works so well, okay? And Shane, tell everybody in chat, not the big win that came from it, but tell everybody how...
The little win.
Yeah, what happened with your fall-offs? Did they all go away? Have you, other than that one big win, don't tell them, okay? But tell everybody what the impact was.
She wants to share the big win story.
There are 4 elements to this. It's how you close, it's how you address the counter offer, it's how you prep for resignation, and it's the conversation you have with your client as soon as your candidate accepts that will stop the fall off altogether, okay? So that all by itself, I think, is worth this program, but there's more. Here is hundreds. We're putting this all in a Word document too. Every single email, text message, voicemail script that we have developed ourselves, not AI. This is not an AI group of messaging. This is mostly Jason, extremely clever and tested to get responses. So all the messaging, guys, it's all of artificial intelligence, AI for recruiters, the whole thing. It's, the micro learning modules haven't been loaded yet. Sorry. Clearly this is a living doc, you're a living academy. It's the AI4 tool. This is the AI4 tool. These are all independent GPTs specifically built to make your job easier. We wrote every one of these GPTs, and it will be an incredible thing for you to have, okay? The deal management, oh my God, this will make you so much money. Each of these GPTs does something for you. So you get the tool too. artificial intelligence, deep learning, right? So this is all sorts of conversations. Most of it, though, ends up in our Wednesday sessions. So every Wednesday we go live in AI4, and all of those sessions are in there. Then there's sourcing training, but you know what? We're going to teach sourcing from the beginning, starting in mid-February, maybe late February, every week on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. And that will all be loaded in here. There's also micro-learning for sourcing in case you want to go back to a technique. There's also deep learning for sourcing. And there's our sourcing tool, which is every base search string that you need in order to find any candidate that you need for any role in under 5 minutes. This tool is yours to keep, as is the AI tool. But we did a lot of training that wasn't just on sourcing and recruiting and business development and AI. There's a lot of things that you need in order to be successful as a recruiter that most people don't train you. Whether that's on email deliverability, thinking time, prioritizing requirements.
Body language in a digital atmosphere when you can't see their body. Time and task management. Tons of things that anybody, especially people like us that are on the sales side of entrepreneurship, where there's a whole bunch of soft skills that everybody just kind of assumes you'll develop along the way, or, fail out of the industry.
Yeah, so there's short tech training. We used to do these 2-minute micro learnings on how to make you more efficient with your tech. We included that. Hey guys, we might be coming up to a recession. I don't know. We built this one going into COVID, and all of it is still applicable. Everything that you need to do to manage a recession.
In fact, the same things that Kellogg's did during the Great Depression still applies today. There's a lot of what happens just gets forgotten because a lot of times downturns in the economy, if you're not a great recruiter, you don't survive them. Good for great recruiters, though.
Great for great recruiters. I always like a recession because all the riffraff leaves the industry and then we have more requirements. All right, we have special appearances, vendor demos in here. You guys know how we told you? No, you can't keep the recordings for Rack Fridays, except now you can because they're all in there, right? At least the ones we still have. We lost a little bit of data a few years ago. And then Thursday sessions is Recruiting Revolution with Rich Rosen. So Rich and I run these sessions. They are lively and full of information, and you've got years of them there, as well as years of celebrations and spotlights, which is part of our group coaching. Now, for Recruiting Revolution with Rich Rosen and for celebrations and spotlights, we're doing something kind of interesting with it. We're going to try and break out this year the hundreds of questions that you guys have asked and the answers. And we're going to try and make it into something that's going to be a little bit more scalable or easily accessible for you. So that's the complete library, okay, as it stands right now. So Michael P., great question. Does it show the original published date? What we did was we only kept the most current published date. So like some of them, like there were big series that we did in 23 and in 24 that are all totally still applicable. But like effective outsourcing, how to do good outsourcing, we teach that every year. We only gave you the most current one with all of the best information, okay? Now, let's talk about what it means. Remember, we wanted this to be a random act of kindness. So you buy it once, you keep it forever. You get to download it and keep it in your firm. Pricing is based on the firm, not on the individual. If you own a firm and you have 5 people working in your firm, you buy this one time and you can train everybody in your company, not just now and next year, but 10 years from now, okay? It's everything we've ever done, and it also still comes with live sessions 3 times a week for the rest of this year. We do sourcing on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Central. We do AI at 3 p.m. Central on Wednesdays. And we do Recruiting Revolution with Rich Rosen at 7:45 a.m. on Thursdays. Rich is not retiring, okay? Rich is going to keep going. I'm going to be with Rich during those Thursday morning sessions for most of this year. And then we'll see how hard the transition is for me. Maybe I'll be there in 2027 sometimes. I don't know yet, okay? All right, so every quarter the price is going to go up, okay? Every quarter it will go up by $5,000. So this is the cheapest it's going to be right now for you. All right, so before we move into your questions, do you guys have questions that you would like to ask about our retirement, or the complete library, or anything else that we can answer for you? If you have questions, we are happy to do it. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to basically start answering your questions. Okay, so thank you for indulging me as I monopolized the whole first 30 minutes of Rack Friday. Okay, so I apologize for that. And why don't we just jump right in? Yeah, you know what? You don't need a link to purchase. All you need to do is come onto our website, go to the complete library right here. When it loads the page, you're going to come down here to purchase, pick the payment plan, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so you're just going to click right here. Okay. All right. So let's jump in. I see a lot of questions coming into chat, but we wanted to take care of the people that were super prepared and sent in their questions. So the coupon code is congrats. All right. All right. Why don't we jump right in and let's start with our first question. What will we need to do about learning and keeping up with AI at your retirement? Anita asked, and we have hashed that out fairly well last week, but I don't know what the answer is.
Well, AI4 continues with its weekly sessions and our updates through 2026, which is quite a lot of time and a lot of changes in the world of AI. I know, because we've typically had to update that program fully from scratch twice a year since we launched it. Beyond that, we have really the AI to help you keep up with the AI, to include everything in the program that's kind of pre-built so you have to do the least amount of thinking possible.
Right. Like, I wish I could tell you guys we'd stick around and make all the updates, but we did update the whole tool. So it's in GPT 5.2 right now. It is absolutely as current as it can possibly be. Okay.
And we've recently refreshed the whole AI4 Academy from the start so that everything is, cooperating with both ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude so that everything is what you need to know.
Right. All right. So we'll shift now to a chat question. Eric asked, what are your thoughts of shifting your niche if your current one is possibly being disrupted by AI, like software development? Whew, that's a big question.
One area that I certainly would go into is, first of all, if you're already in software development, there's a solid chance that you can move into AI. Let's face it, it's basically a kind of software. And so right now, there are huge needs in that sector. One thing that's important to think about with any economic downturn is niche changing does solve the problem, right? There were absolutely people who, did recruiting for BlackBerry developers. And at some point, they needed to switch the niche. It wasn't that, business just got so bad and they had to shrivel up and die. Right? What we do is basically people skills. We're looking for people and we're communicating with people to find out what kind of people they need. Right? Well, we don't need to know how to do what they do. So when any industry is being disrupted, whether it's by AI or any other market factor, we can just switch more easily than any other business. You can put up a page today.
Yeah, recruiting is recruiting. I mean, when you can ask good questions and you know how to pre-qualify, you know how to understand the culture of the company, and especially if you know how to source, AI is your friend right now on a niche change. It should be relatively easy, Eric. So look for something adjacent. Like if you're already in software development, you could certainly shift into like machine learning or AI, right? That would feel like a pretty easy transition. Or if you're already in software development, maybe you go towards AI-focused SaaS companies, right? So you can incorporate some of that AI into your business.
Also, in general, the biggest change that we're seeing with AI in the world right now is the jobs being created. That's right, I said created by AI outside of the world of AI are mostly those that are the ones for correcting AI. Graphic designers that say, oh, yeah, I see you tried to make a new logo or a magazine cover page inside of ChatGPT. Funny how the words didn't end up looking like words, huh? Let me fix that for you. And they're getting to charge their same bill rate. They're just having to fix AI work. And this is across a lot of different areas, right? It is a higher class of customer service in the AI world to upgrade to a human. So correcting AI work, doing better than AI work, these are currently our growth areas because of AI.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think a lot of times whenever we have something disruptive, yes, certainly when the internet came around, we lost a lot of travel agents, but we added a whole bunch of jobs, right? So we're anticipating that same thing is going to happen here. It's just going to be more of a shift. All right, next question. I have been in the business for over 31 years. I've been through and survived 3 recessions, the dot-com era in the early 2000s, and I gained and lost a lot of clients along the way. I've done well, but in the past 2 years, I'm finding it difficult to keep up with all the new technology, especially now in AI. I want to walk into my retirement years ahead of me sooner rather than later, but I know I will be bored not working at all and I may miss my recruiting years. How do I walk away professionally? I have been working a 360 desk on my own in my own company, and I really also feel you can't work part-time in this industry. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, the first thing that I'd say to do is gather a room of people, a whole bunch of people, and announce your retirement. That was our plan today. And so this is one of the reasons we knew we had to address this particular question when it came in. Walking away from your work and knowing what you want to do in retirement are 2 entirely different things. And I actually want to address the second part of this for everybody. Tricia mentioned a little bit ago, Jason worked on me to understand what was enough. And we don't live in an enough society. We live in a more society for most of us in America. By that I mean, why would I have a 500 horsepower car when I can have 800? Why would I have 1 car when I can have 2? Why would I have 2 houses when I could have 3? More. And that's okay to a point. You should have enough. I want you all to have enough. But there also comes a point of more than enough. Can you sustain yourself for the rest of your life realistically if you're not doing things like buying a plane. Tricia said I was going to get a license, but I have no intention of buying a plane. That it's for fun, right? I don't need to I don't know, take up a job of smuggling to the tropics, but I could.
Right. I'll be real vulnerable with you guys. I started therapy with a new therapist at the early part of last year because my entire identity is wrapped up in who I am professionally. You know, I'm a headhunter, and I'm a trainer, and I'm a coach, and I'm a speaker. And oh my God, who am I if I'm not all of those things? Like, that's a real challenge. I wouldn't quite put it to existential crisis, but man, it was borderline, right? It took therapy for me to be able to come to terms with the fact that I am a whole person, even when I'm not performing for you guys. And that took work. That isn't something that, you know, I can't imagine many people in all of our shoes where we're so passionate and we're running our own businesses. I wouldn't expect that any of you would be able to do that without a little outside structured support. I know I couldn't, okay? But I want to address the idea of working part-time in this industry. Can you just give me a PT in chat, not in the QA section, but in chat, PT, if you work part-time in this industry, give me a PT. Because the person that asked this question, I want you to see that there are absolutely people that successfully work part-time in this industry. And there's a couple different ways to do it. Gunny, I'm sorry, 60 hours a week is not part-time. That is full-time. Okay, it's more than full-time. But look at all the PTs showing up in chat. You can do this job part-time. I have many, many times in my 32-year career in recruiting, recruited part-time. So it looks one of two different ways. You either work part-time where you spend a little bit of time each day recruiting, but most of the time not, or you go like gangbusters for like 3 months. And if you do that and you work really hard and you know what enough is for you, then you take the rest of the year off. Or you only deal with inbound client needs as they come in if you decide you want to take it.
Yeah, that one is the one that I often see with recruiters that kind of slow down and retire. They don't go after new business. They've got 1 to 3 clients that will come to them 1 to 3 times a year and give them a role to work on. And it's not a lot of work, and it's also more than enough work for most people. And you will eventually lose those clients because you're not doing new business development. But that's kind of the idea, is it lets them wind down, and then you have transitioned.
Right. Which is, what we're doing right now. Woohoo! All right. A question came in chat. How often does Rack Friday occur? Normally we do it 2 to 4 times a year. This could be our last one, guys. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll do like a pop-up Rack Friday. So if you get an invite for Rack Friday later this year, you should attend.
Maybe right? We'll change the themes. We'll have like a snack Friday where everyone brings it like a big potluck.
That would be so much fun. And that leads me directly into Lance's question, which is, is this like Cher and Elton John or The Who, where they have a farewell tour and then follow up with years later with another farewell tour, right? No, Lance.
Like the Rolling Stones, we're going to retire just the 8 times.
No, it's not going to be 8 times. We're really done. We didn't make this decision lightly. We've been planning for it for more than a year. Maybe if we have time later, I'll tell you the story. But Jason retired in September of last year, very, very quietly. But he already retired. And I was like, no, I love this. And that lasted for a few months before I wanted to retire too. So
the secret was actually retirement positivity.
Here's what he would do for like the first month, right? I would say to him, like, honey, you want to go out to dinner? And he'd be like, sure, I'm retired. Let's go out to dinner. Like, oh, that's cute. I'd be like, hey, honey, could you proofread the weekly update, the weekly newsletter that we sent? And he'd be like, sure, I'm free. I'm retired. And he did it over and over and over. And at first, I celebrated that, like giggled and jumped up and down with him. And then after a month or so of it, I started...
She realized I was serious.
Yeah. And I think I started feeling like, ooh, me too, right? All right, let's go to another question. I love this one. On Friday, meaning today, I'm wondering if you can briefly address a bigger issue that a couple colleagues of mine are happening in my company. They're afraid that putting a client resume into ChatGPT to help with a letter or something is going to go out into the universe and jeopardize the confidentiality of that candidate's search. I'm just curious if you have a simple response to people with serious AI fear.
Yeah, so something like this doesn't happen. The AI models are made to not give personal information. And so think of it this way. I often joke about this. If the AI models were going to share personal information, ask it for Sam Altman's address. Ask it for Sam Altman's phone number. He is the CEO. He's a public figure. It should be well known. It should be easy to source and research, except the model is specifically made to not share those kinds of details. Now, is it best practice to be putting these things into a version of ChatGPT or any other model with the memory on? No, it's not best practice. Are our candidates already all over the internet? Yes, from LinkedIn and other social media platforms, and their resume posted on other places, that they're already out there. Their anonymity, as far as being a human being, is gone. Whether or not they're involved in a search, who is going into the cloud to check?
They're really not. I mean, there's a couple things you can do. Like, if you're inside of ChatGPT, let me just show you this. If you want to work inside of ChatGPT and you want to be sure that it's not being used for training data, you click this little bubble in the upper right-hand corner. It makes everything dark mode here, but it doesn't go into the model at all. That's all you have to do is click that button right there before you start the search. And so if it's something sensitive and you want to be careful with it, click that button and do a private search. That just means that your chat won't be saved and it won't show up in your memory. Yeah, Casey, what you're going to do, I'm just in ChatGPT.
It looks like a ghost chat bubble, like a little dashed line, like the comic strip author is saying the person is thinking this, not saying it out loud. Well, that's our version of incognito mode, where it's not going to save the memory of that chat.
Right. So you just click that button, and it's a really easy way to do it.
All three of the major models that we teach have a version of that.
Yeah. You can do, I think so.
I'm not 100, I think Gemini can. I'll have to check. I know Gemini can to some extent or another because I can go into Google incognito.
Yeah, what I do in Claude, if I'm doing something sensitive, I just do it and then delete the chat because then it won't go into the temporary files.
Can't be remembered if it's not there.
Yeah, it does still remember who you are in your prior instructions, I believe, in a temporary chat. Do you know, Jason?
It will remember who you are in your prior instructions, yes.
Even if you're on temporary?
Even in temporary chat.
Excellent, excellent. All right, let's keep going here. I wanted to ask how a recruiter should understand what to look for in a world selling AI. If I went to the buffet of recruiting AI and I sat down to order, what would I see on the menu? And that kind of ties into another question that came from a different person. I have a question regarding various AI tools that are available for recruiting. What are your thoughts regarding Pin or Quill? And in light of these tools, does it make sense to have a paid LinkedIn account moving forward?
Great questions all around. Of course, there are literally tens of thousands of AI tools right now, many of them powered by Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, and even in some cases Grok and Copilot, though that's more rare. One of the main things that you're going to see all of these tools doing, like even just look at the names, Quill, it's writing for you. These are language models, they're writing tools. And I will tell you my big problem with them, we're all going to end up sounding alike. I see it every day. I will stop reading an article when I realize it was written by AI. There's a whole bunch of tells besides the M dash, but you'll notice it when it starts sounding alike. Once it sounds too much alike, well, that's everybody on these. And how are people going to respond to us reaching out with AI? Well, they're going to put it into AI and they're going to respond back to us with AI. And that's a boring process. It is so much more fun to come up with your own messaging and communications. Now, as far as areas where I think AI is terribly helpful, it is helpful for a whole lot of things like summarization, though don't think that it summarizes without hallucination. It does sometimes mis-summarize, but it's going to be fabulous for things like transcription. We have a lot of conversations and take a lot of notes. I might be only 50, but my hands already cramp. So we have ways to make our lives easier with AI without necessarily going towards all these products. The AI4 tool does a lot of that for us. The problem with products, I think Tricia can tell the story. We know somebody who lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue time by looking at all of the products. And I shouldn't say all, because again, tens of thousands of them. There's an AI for that.
Right. And I'll tell you, one that might be worth it, if you come down into your complete academy and we go to special guests and vendor demos. This was a recent demo that Rich Rosen, Rich, if you're still here, put into chat how much money you think you've made from PIN this year, right? Rich Rosen has been rocking it with PIN. I don't know if he's still here, but if I'm ballparking it, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? So look at that. He came into chat easily over $500,000. Rich Rosen has developed using PIN in a very short amount of time. So are there tools out there that are really going to be helpful for you, that are really going to do a good job? There are some, yes. The problem that we run into right now with tools is vibe coding, right? Right now, Claude is a remarkable coder, and we all have these wonderful ideas. And now people are using AI to code applications, but they're not coders, which means that there's a lot of bugs and there's a lot of vulnerabilities, and we've got to be careful with it, okay? Be real careful with it. So
yeah, I saw one of the interesting vibe codings. Somebody had put together a vibe coded piece of software, and turns out that the main thing that they had done that was certainly important to protect their software was the whole password and user identity thing, which it turned out that anybody could put anything into it and it would let them in, because even though it looked like a password protected site, all you had to do was enter any username and any possible password, and the person didn't know that they weren't secure because it looked secure.
Right.
Okay, I can log on successfully. Anyone can.
Let's crowdsource this, guys, and I'll put the list together for you. What tools, AI, do you love? Go ahead and put them into chat for us. Like, if you have an AI tool that you're using and you love it, like it is really making a difference for you. Like Jason and I primarily use ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and none of the others.
Now, sometimes I go out to Sora, which is a ChatGPT OpenAI AI video creation tool. I have ones that I have used for kind of deep fakes. I've used AI tools for voice cloning. Like there's others that I use for other purposes, right? Those are both things that you don't get in conventional models. And there are reasons for other models. And right now, according to There's an AI for that, there's 45,533 tools. And we want you to not waste time spending an hour looking at each one of them.
Yeah, we don't. So I want to speak to a couple of you for a moment that are saying perplexity. Okay, sorry, Rich. I got to do it. I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute. Okay. My recommendation is to stay as far. Thank you. Rich said I scared him off. Stay as far away as you can from Perplexity. Perplexity has an agentic browser called Comet. And an agentic browser is a browser that is allowed to take action on your behalf without your approval.
It acts as an agent for you.
So what Perplexity did was, first, can I just say that, like, the CEO of Perplexity about 9 months ago said all recruiters will be obsolete within 6 months because one Perplexity prompt could do any of our jobs for an entire week. Like, how to make a
By the way, if that were true, I would have written that prompt, and our retirement would just be the AI recruiting people for us for a week, and then on Monday I'd give it a second prompt.
Yeah.
And every Monday, that's what I would do. That would be my workload. But that's not actually how anything works. And there's been a lot of studies that say AI won't get to that on its language model basis that they're working on right now, that we're starting to max out at the capabilities that these things have without having extended memory.
Yeah, one of the things that concerned me so much about Comet from Perplexity is they identified a vulnerability in August of last year where they basically, if you opted to have it summarize something that was like a long Reddit article, and it did the summary, if there was an injection prompt inside of the summary, it could go into your bank account and wire transfer the balance to someone else. Like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I would tell all of you to stay away from Perplexity. Stay away from DeepSeek. You don't want that one either. Okay, so thank you for sharing all your tools. I'll compile that and share it with everybody after this session.
Yes, and please understand, as Tricia's saying, these agentic browsers, they can be literally used with one prompt hidden on a page to send your bank account to my bank account.
Right.
Don't do that for people. They should have to struggle for a little.
All right, Lisa O wants to know about Grok. Please stay away from Grok too. Grok is just nasty.
Yeah. The lack of controls on Grok and in fact the forced changes to the training data to support specific viewpoints have been making it a less and less viable platform for anything.
Yeah.
If I shared with everybody the article about the Grok stuff that's not on X, it's so bad I had to take breaks from reading it, and I did not share it in class. People make awful things with Grok. Ew.
Yeah, I would stay away from it, right? I would completely stay away from it. Casey asked, what's your favorite ATS? I wish I could give you a good one.
Grok.
No. Crelate's pretty good. Loxo's pretty good. There's some new ones coming out that Rich is on board with, like Atlas and Jarvie. We're going to see a lot of new ones coming out over the course of the next year.
We've had clients who love PCR even.
Yeah, some of you put in ones like Zoho. Don't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
We'll call that one a no-no.
We'll call Zoho a no-no. Recruiter Flow. I did a podcast for Recruiter Flow, and then one of our clients went and chose them.
Trying to do an implementation.
It was so bad, I made the CEO of Recruiter Flow take down my podcast because I didn't want my name associated with it. So, I mean, I'm not a big fan of that one either.
Now, that was, that means that person never even successfully launched their use of it. It could be a fabulous product that in other people's use cases could have worked out a lot better.
Right. So sorry to give you the bad news there. All right. we're going to keep going with a couple email questions, and then we'll get back into the QA area. If you have questions, put them in the QA area. I'm going to try and scroll back through chat to see what I missed, but if you have a question you want us to address, you have a much better chance of it happening if it's in the QA area. All right. One of my recruiters is focused on wealth management. We have open orders with all the big ones, Rockefeller, Raymond James, Wells Fargo, but it's so slow. What would you recommend for intermittent success, meaning billings, commissions, money, while these long sales cycles play out? She's dying, I'm dying, we're all dying.
Oh, you cannot speed certain kinds of sales cycles, and high net worth, wealth management type people fall into that category. Our urgency does not become their urgency. Unfortunately, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. That said, what we can do is stay on top. Anytime that we can continue to check in on somebody, continue with our enthusiasm, continue to reach out, it feels to them like it's moving along, which means it's more likely for them to make decisions faster, everybody along the way. It's like if you sit down and play chess with somebody and you start moving your pieces really fast, they're going to pick up the pace a little bit. And that's true of any game, you checkers or whatever. Like, if you're moving quicker, they're likely to reflect that a little bit. So keep it up with communications and don't let this is a slow sales cycle, so there's not much to do mindset take away the revenue.
I wonder if you couldn't also go to your client base and be like, hey, in 2026, we've decided that only for our premier clients, we are going to help support you in your admin or analyst roles, right? Like the lower level positions that aren't wealth advisory services. And you could do it on a case-by-case basis with only the clients you love or you have good terms to your contract, and see if maybe they'll open that up for you. Otherwise, you may have to either step up the activity so that you can offset the delayed timelines, or pick up an adjacent niche to be able to fill in the blanks. Okay, so you have some options there, but man, I love wealth advisory services because they bring their book with them. So a lot of times, if I was in that industry, what I would be doing is just constantly recruiting candidates and building relationships so that when they're finally ready to explore another opportunity, you're the only recruiter that they go to. Okay? All right. I love this. Here's what keeps me up at night. The length of time it's taking us to fill roles. We don't have enough open roles, which also keeps me up at night. And that added pressure intensifies the desperation that's starting to leak out. I want to actually address the desperation leaking, okay? Because that is so insightful and so self-aware. We have to get the desperation out of our voices. We've got to get the desperation out of our pressure and our urgency. We're never going to convince a hiring manager to extend an offer that for a candidate they don't want. And we're never going to be able to get a candidate to take a job that they don't want. So back off the pressure. Back off the urgency, right? The only way out of it is to increase your activity. That's it.
I would also start using, with your clients, with candidates, anti-urgency language. Hey, do you have any time over the next couple of weeks for a meeting? Right? What that does, when somebody opens up their calendar and you say, over the next couple of weeks, it sounds low pressure, right? Their calendar opens up to this week. Usually it's going to open up to today. Some people it's going to open up for the whole week. They have to, if they want to go 3 weeks ahead, they've got to click an arrow multiple times. Like, they're not doing that. They're looking at the next available spots. But what we usually say is, at your earliest convenience, whenever you have a moment, like, it's urgency language, which drives people away. Like if you feel urgent and desperate, like, I need a date for this wedding by tomorrow. Like, good luck, sucker. Should have asked somebody out 3 months ago. In that situation, to keep our urgency from coming out, we have to lean into the opposite direction. Might not, fake it till you make it well enough, but they'll hear the lack of urgency in the words, right? As opposed to the urgency we usually go, this will only take a moment. Whenever you have a minute, let me talk to you. Let me get on your calendar. They're desperate.
Right. I couldn't agree with that more. There's so much power in language, right? In our word choice, in the way we deliver things. And we have to be conscious of that, right? Of how we're coming across and the things that we're saying, how we're making the people that we talk to feel. They don't always remember what you say, but they always remember how you make them feel. And so if that urgency language is there, you're making them feel pressure. And no deals close from pressure. None. Okay, so we want to back that off as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, think about what the most laid-back person that you can think of. What the Big Lebowski. How would that person react to the pressure? And they just well, I guess this is just a job I've got to do, dude. And that's it.
It's so funny because one of the things we did in AI4 this week, we were playing around with funny prompts. Like if you go into ChatGPT and you say hey, based on everything you know about me, what fiction or nonfiction figure do I most represent? Give it to me in a picture. Guys, I got the dude from the Big Lebowski. That was my picture of what ChatGPT thought I was. Cracked me up. All right. Am I in the right dig? Okay, for those of you that don't know, that's discipline industry geography. It's kind of MRI shorthand for your niche. So how do I know if I'm in the right one? Am I calling the right people? How do I level up my orders? Higher roles equal higher fees, often with the same amount of work. At least that's what I'm told. So I'm going to tell you a quick story from 1998. I had my search firm for a year. I was really young. I was successful very fast. And so I decided at the end of 1997 that I was no longer going to accept any requirements that were under $100,000 in salary, which in 1997, that was a real kind of line in the sand. And I thought, candidly, that I was pretty hot shit. And I was real confident about it. No, we don't accept anything under $100,000. And then in 1998, I blanked for the first 5 months of the year. I had multiple $40,000 plus deals go all the way to the finish line, and all of them fell off. All of them, every single one of them fell off. So higher roles, higher fees, yeah, but there's a learning curve. If you're gonna change the level that you recruit at, or maybe you're considering going all engaged or all retained instead of contingency, only do that knowing that there's a high probability that you could take a step backwards before you take a step forwards.
Yeah, I think there's so many things that come into play here. You can be in the right dig and at the right level, and also understand that can sometimes equal some of this slowness, like we just talked about with wealth management. Higher up may be roughly the same amount of work, but it is going to be a slower process. There's fewer CFOs than there are accountants. It's just naturally a pyramid structure throughout corporate society. And so the higher up you go, the less positions there are to fill. For this reason, I suggest baby roles. There's one thing to say, I only place at the C-suite. Okay, well, then you're not going to have a lot of placements. They're going to be high dollar placements. I only place at the C-suite and their admin staff. Ooh. Now I've got baby placements that I can do right alongside of, in addition to, that happen at a faster, more regular rate. They're easier to place. It's some level of It doesn't have to go outside of your dig to be a baby placement. It's something that you can do that is typically more fillable. It doesn't have to be easier, but there's just more of it.
Yeah, boy, I agree with that fully and completely. All right,
we should work together.
Our next question is both in email and in the QA section here. So I'm going to...
People want to know. Inquiring minds.
Right. All right. So the question that was sent in via email is, what situations do you find yourself where a good word track actually makes a difference? Like getting candidates to respond or call me back or move forward in the process. So before we answer that, let me give you the second part from a different person. In what situations do you find where a good word track might make a difference? For answered calls, I find permission-based openers land the best. What are some that you have seen high acceptance success rates with? I've learned that short introductions help provide context to the caller before launching into the reason for the call too. But when I only say my name and company, the prospect's brain gets stuck there and they don't hear what I say next. And they typically say, wait, who are you? And what company do you work for?
All right. So my default for this is humor. There's going to be, Tricia has mentioned some of the messaging programs we put together and all that, but I like to go to humor because you can throw somebody off. Hi, I'm Jason Thibeault with More Essentials. I'm a recruiter, so you can hang up if you want to. Totally just changed the whole basis of the call, didn't I?
Right? Rich Rosen has one that is just absolutely brilliant. He will make the call and real casual, real confident. He'll be like, hey, Michelle, Tricia Tamkin, I'm sure you've probably heard my name thrown around before. I work smack dab in your industry. It's like this throwaway, and it makes them feel like, oh, wow, am I supposed to know who this person is?
It's a little more East Coast self-aggrandizing. They're all different methods, but the method of here's my name and here's my business, that doesn't mean anything to them. I'm Jason from More Essentials. If you don't know me, that could be any sort of company doing. I could be putting roofs on, right? But instead, we want to give them a little something to make their brain. They picked up the phone. We owe it to them to be a little bit entertaining.
Yeah, we sure do. You know what? Whenever somebody answers the phone, I'm always so surprised. I need a moment, right? And so if they answer the phone and they're like, hi, this is Julie, my instant reaction is, oh, wow, Julie, you answered your phone. We are going to be fast friends. My name is Tricia Tamkin, and I am a headhunter in your space, and I don't know why we don't know each other, right? But I need the buffer. It's not for them, it's for me. When they answer, I'm like, oh my God, someone answered? Like I've made 100 phone calls today and nobody answered, and now I'm flustered because someone did answer, right? So own it, laugh, right? It is actually okay to fumble. It's okay to be nervous. In today's day and age, that just makes you more human, and people are more receptive to humanity right now because of AI. So it's a good thing.
I also want to share, there have been some studies around, one particular piece of communication that almost all of us do when somebody answers the phone. It's the how are you. Now, the worst way to say how are you is to do the, hi, how are you? I'm Jason from More Essentials and blah, 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 blah. I asked you a question, and instead of giving you a chance to answer, I proceed on and just talk and tell you who I am and what I'm calling for. That's the worst way. The mediocre way is the how are you? And you wait. The best way is the how have you been? For a moment, now their brain has to change from this is the standard way somebody says how are you to this is the way a friend asks how you've been doing. And so it's going to be a higher response rate, more likely to keep a person on the phone significantly. I can't remember the exact numbers from the study, but it was a big jump, something like 3 times more likely for somebody to continue the conversation.
Yeah, like if hey, Mark, how have you been? you instantly think that I know you, and now you feel like, oh my God, who is Tricia? And now there's a weird power dynamic where I know you and you don't know me, and that makes you feel a little bit guilty and more apt to continue the conversation with me. That's powerful, right? I think that's powerful. All right, Mark, I used your name because your question is next. I am a newbie using ChatGPT to assist me with my recruiting. I'm now immersed in it, but I'm trying to figure out best practices and I'm bootstrapped. I've not taken any courses. Is ChatGPT the best tool? And what are the benefits of combining the other AI tools out there? I want to tell you something, Mark. If you ask the question, Jason had such an interesting approach to this for years now. If he could only have one upgraded AI, he would have gone with ChatGPT. But Jason, if you could have two upgraded AIs, what would you go with?
Gemini and Claude.
Not ChatGPT.
Not ChatGPT. To me, ChatGPT is actually the third most valuable of those three. There's times when I think it's a little bit better writer. There's times when its images are better than Gemini's, though I typically like Gemini's more. For the most part, both from an accuracy and a capability standpoint, I'm finding I like the other two prime models, Gemini and Claude, more. Gemini has this advantage of literally having access to more websites than the other two combined, and the ability to have the funding of Google behind it all along the way. So Gemini has basically the capabilities that any of them have if you were to do benchmark testing and all that. Personally, I like my interactions with Claude a little better. That seems to be very normal, and in fact, at the enterprise level, Claude wins hands down. Companies are something like 3 times more likely right now to be using Claude internally than ChatGPT.
I would have a very hard time picking. If I had to just pick one right now, I would say, come on, $60 a month, buy them all 3. like that's my answer to you.
That's not picking one.
It's not picking one. I don't think I could pick one. I mean, I love the GPTs in ChatGPT. I love deep research in Gemini. And candidly, Claude is the smartest, best writer, best analyst, best coder.
But it keeps running out of prompts.
Right? So that's a problem. So you can, if you're going to combine the tools, Mark, just do the 3 language models. All you need is Gemini, Claude, and ChatGPT. You don't need anything else at all. Okay? All right. The next question. Not sure if this is possible, but can you give us a little bit of a state of the union, such as how recruiters are doing these days? Now, before I read the rest of that question, I thought we would crowdsource this one in a poll.
That was nice of you to put together
Yes.
a poll. I thought you might pull up the tracking that we do for some of our coaching clients. So you have, 5 possible answers, 4 possible answers here?
4 answers.
So what is the health of your personal desk? No one will be able to see what you answered. It is anonymous.
It is anonymous, but I think this will give us a really nice kind of snapshot of the market. So your options are, I'm off to a banner start. Jobs are flowing. Candidates are responding. It's going to be a great year. Or, the start of the year has been decent but not strong. I have requirements. I'm getting traction, but I'm not jumping up and down with excitement. Or, I have a single client holding me up right now and it's making me a little nervous. I feel like I'm just getting by.
And the final one is, oof, last year was bad and I think this year is going to be worse. So somewhere in there, it doesn't have to be that exact one, but you'll find where you're at. Now, what we are generally finding is, certainly as I mentioned before, recessions are industry specific. If you're in software development right now, you're probably having a worse year than somebody who's in accounting and finance. If you are specifically in things like AI and semiconductors, you've been having a banner past couple of years.
Right. So it completely depends on what industry you're in. So only 44% of you have responded so far. So I'm going to leave that poll open while I actually read the rest of the question. Okay. Regarding internal corporate work, are they filling roles? Is it a slow process? Are candidates returning calls and showing up? Is there a lot of ghosting going on? I know I'm different than most of your recruiters because I'm internal, but I want to know if things are getting better and they're filling roles, or this is harder because companies are making it more difficult. What we are seeing right now is companies are still moving forward with their hiring process, but not necessarily with their hiring. So a lot of candidates are getting into process, but then we're seeing a lot of delays before offers are extended. That's been a common problem right now. That coupled with the fact that a lot of people are accepting multiple jobs and then starting, seeing how they feel, and leaving, or accepting your job and then continuing to interview and accepting a better job before they start. Okay.
Will you share the poll?
Yeah, let me share the poll. I will end the poll. Here we go, and share the results. Here we go, guys. On the poll, 14% of you are off to a banner year. The majority of you, 59%, it's been pretty decent. You're feeling good, but you're not jumping up and down. 21% of you have a single client holding you up, and 6% of you are really struggling right now. I feel like that's a pretty accurate depiction of what we're seeing in the market. What do you think?
I'd say that's an accurate depiction. And to build off of that on the internal side, I know 2 recruiters that I work with more closely that are internal recruiters, or are at least contract internal recruiters. And they're filling jobs. What they're also seeing is a lot of concern over their own jobs as other contractors or internal recruiters are being taken off of their roles. We have combined issues also of candidates who, depending on the industry, may be extremely nervous right now to go through the change. Do they want to be the lowest, newest person with the least seniority while the economy is rocky? So depending on the industry you're in, you might be running into that. I've certainly seen that one in tech.
I have too. Now, I don't know how many contract recruiters we have in the room, okay? And if you want to send this to me just at, change your everyone in chat to be only hosts and panelists. If you are a contract recruiter, or you have ever been a contract recruiter, if you can own it and just put the rate in, that'd be great, whatever rates you were able to get. But you can send it to me privately and I'll share it without your name if you don't want people to know how much money you make. That's perfectly acceptable. So this individual that's asking is saying they were always at 85 an hour, but currently at 70. So what we have seen right now, 85 is a real solid standard, but man, I just heard of a contract recruiter getting a job offer at 57. That's awful. I would not take $57 an hour. I don't think that's enough money. But I've also seen contract recruiters as high as 135.
I have as well.
I'm
sure we're thinking of the same client.
We are. I'm sure we are.
But when you get to those levels like that, that's all going to be kind of demand-based. And right now, enough contract recruiters are available, and enough recruiting firms that were borderline are going to tumble, that there's going to be a lot of low-level recruiting talent available.
Yeah, it's so interesting because this individual said, the company that they're working for, they did 57 roles as a contract recruiter and conservatively saved the company $1.4 million in outside fees, and they rejected a $10 increase in their hourly rate. Whew, I'd been pissed about that. I might be looking for something else if that was me. Hopefully, when you went to them, you made that case of $1.4 million because that's a massive, massive cost savings. Okay. All right. Let's do another one that has come through in chat. All right, I have learned to cater to my audience. So when I recruit for tool and die roles, those folks want to know I'm calling about specific job opportunities, so my word track is different. When I recruit for financial advisors, they're very guarded, so the pitch is more advisory or consultative, letting us learn about their business and where they are is better and more profitable. It's a very unique space. While we have open assignments, it's not like a guy leaves one firm to go to another. He has a team of several people and multi-million dollars worth of clients that move with them to a new firm. Or maybe they even go independent or hybrid. We work to identify what they want and what's best for them. I think the question here is how to modify the pitch based on the type of person that you're reaching out to.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. And I'm going to add a couple of other wrenches into the works. One, we've been very, very loose with our audience right now. A tool and die guy is one personality type, and a financial manager is a different personality type. And we just kind of grouped it that way. Now, I worked in manufacturing, and I had a tool and die shop inside of there, and I had 7 tool and die guys, and they had 7 different personalities, I promise you. That means 7 different approaches. Now, fortunately, there are tools right now that can help us approach every individual person on their own level, and that is AI. We can use any information we can find about somebody and customize all of our messaging. Use your own flair and your own whimsy and your own creativity, but also the ability to custom tailor it to exact personality types as advised to you by a budding psychology student that is ChatGPT or another tool.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Anytime that you can modify what your positioning is based on the person, you're going to massively increase the likelihood of a response, right? Okay, let's do another one live here, and then we'll go back to some email ones. I don't know how to say this name. Do you know how to say this?
I'm going to say Theodore, and if I'm wrong, I'm so sorry.
All right, Theodore. Theodore has a startup for academic hackathons from the life sciences industry in the Netherlands for TA and placement into the corporate scientific world. I want to know if you have experience or any advice for academic context of how to reach out to companies and students.
Well, I have some. I worked for a while in a for-profit educational college system. Primarily, though, what I was reaching out to was budding young teachers, people that were going to become, part-time adjunct professors for the college. Now, what that is young PhD graduates typically. So it's very similar. I will say one thing. The academic hackathon method towards recruiting was very popular, especially about 5 years ago. The idea of hackathons fell into some disrepute because ultimately you're not solving real world problems at a hackathon, nor do you have real world limitations. What you have is something more similar to, and there's good hackathons. There's hackathons for charity. Just understand that whether somebody who performs well at a hackathon is a good employee are two entirely unrelated concepts.
Yeah, they sure are, right? So we're testing skill in that, but that doesn't mean that it's a culture fit, and it doesn't mean that it's a good employee. It just means they can do it.
Well, we're testing somebody in a jet pilot simulator to see if what they can do is be our bus driver in 99% of cases, and it's just unrelated. There is a vehicle involved.
Yeah, how about it? That's interesting. I think it would be easy to go to the colleges, though, and get the kids interested in participating.
Well, and hackathon type events are typically public. If you can go to a university, inside of universities in the States, and I can't answer this for the Netherlands, I'm sorry, there's actually a person at every university whose responsibility it is to make sure that the students who graduate there get jobs in the field where they studied. This is for accreditation purposes, and those numbers have to be put together and submitted annually, like accreditation's a big deal. Find that person and they can get you into any of those types of things for the purposes of recruiting.
Yeah, I agree completely. All right. Do the heavy hitters, the Rich Rosens of the world, do they ever go to the CHRO of companies, or as I was trained, always hiring manager and C-suite, always first? It's a great question, and there are mixed thoughts on this, okay? I think HR used to be at the kids' table, right? Like they just did benefits administration and they weren't really involved in anything important. And over the course of the last decade or two, like HR has gotten a seat at the grown-up table and they're really participating in succession planning and developing, which jobs are going to be replaced by AI, and TA is falling underneath them. I am not opposed to working with HR. I'm not opposed to working with internal recruiting. The most money I have ever made in my entire life was with Cognizant Technology Solutions, where we did well over 7 figures, never had access to a hiring manager and only worked with internal TA. And it was all contingency. So the people that tell you you can't make money working with HR, they just have never made money working with HR. I think you go to HR and you say, hey, a lot of recruiters out there don't want to work with you. Me, I'm different. I see your value. My job is to make you look good, and you can take all the credit for it. All I need is a paycheck. So what can I do to make you look good? I would encourage you to work with HR because if you try to avoid it completely, then you just get on their blacklist, right? And they have a blacklist. And if you get on it, they now do have enough control to actually implement that. And now you've got weird political dynamics where your hiring manager is fighting with HR on your behalf. And even if they win, there's animosity and it's going to hurt your deals. So I say bring HR into the fold.
I couldn't agree with Tricia more. I think this is one of those areas where when I was a plant manager and I would regularly hang out with my human resources manager, Caprice. And when I told Caprice that I was going to leave that role to go and become a recruiter, she said, oh no, that's awful. Every HR person has had to do recruiting and we all hate it. And so it's really a good entry point for me to enter into recruiting because she was wrong. I didn't hate it. And she still has to be an HR manager and I get to be retired. So there's some elements there, though, that are really telling. If you were to call up 100 HR managers and ask them if they want to be a recruiter, they're going to tell you no. I'm going to say 99 and a half of them.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree.
And so if they don't want to go and become a recruiter, working with them as an ally as opposed to treating them as an enemy is where to be.
Yeah, Melanie, I would say HR or TA, right? Internal recruiters or HR, whoever is managing it, you want to be their friend. You want them to love you. If they love you, when they leave, your contract is still in place at the company they're at, and they'll take you with them to their next firm, right? That, it actually works really very, very well. All right, next question. The past year has been a little weird for my niche, so BD hasn't flowed like it normally does. I'm pivoting a bit this year and also revisiting how to handle objections, like we don't use agencies, fees are too high. I've dealt with this before, but lately it feels different and it has me stuck. Probably just a mindset shift. So I'm spending some time tightening that up so I can move through objections more easily. If it's not too late, how are people overcoming objections in this market climate right now? And what kind of mindset helps when you're heading into marketing phone calls and conversations? I'm open to any ideas, just something that I've been pondering given the shift I'm seeing and needing to tweak my approach.
All right, so there's a couple of important things here, and I want to address that mindset shift. You mentioned 2 entirely different types of objection. One, we don't use agencies. The other, fees are too high. Now, when I say these are two different objections, I don't mean the content of them, though certainly that will adjust how we respond. I mean one of these says no, and one of these says maybe. One of these is, hey, can I sit here? No. And one of these is, I have a boyfriend. Right, okay, well, that's not a no, that's an objection. This is expensive is an objection. There's two ways to handle the objection. Of course it's expensive, it's worth it, right? You justify the cost and sell, or you respond by downselling. That's okay, I have less expensive products. Please don't discount yourself, right? Don't go, you know what, you're right, I'm not worth 25%, make it 15. You know what, I'm kind of funny looking, make it 12.
When someone says to you, we don't use agencies, in the moment, believe them. Okay? If they say we don't use agencies, be like, okay, wow, how are you doing your hiring? Like, are you getting good people? Is this a problem for you? But ultimately, you accept the no. And then put them on your calendar for like 90 days later, call like you've never talked to them before, and try again. I know that sounds kind of silly, but the number of times that we don't use agencies is a brush off. Like if you're walking through Costco and they're like, hey, do you need new windows? And you're like, oh no, I rent.
My house doesn't have windows. Right? I live in a garage.
It's the same thing. So when they tell you they don't use agencies, don't try to convince them to use an agency. If you're successful in convincing them, when they go tell their boss, okay, now we're going to use agencies, their boss is going to be like, no, we're not. And then their boss is going to convince them in exactly the opposite direction. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, people who can be convinced easily are, frankly, they can be convinced easily in too many directions. It's not going to be good. They can be convinced easily and they're rock solid and they own the company, that's different, but still challenging because your exclusive arrangement goes away the next time a recruiter calls them because they can be influenced easily. It is better often to find somebody who is a harder sell because once you have them as a customer, you tend to have them longer.
Yeah, man, I love when it's hard. When it's hard to get them engaged, once you get them, you got them, right? So put your sales hat on. Get real curious with a person. When they're telling you no, your only job in that moment is to granularly understand why. Understand why they're telling you no, and then you have to figure out if what they're telling you is a direct no, I'm not interested, or if they're telling you, I'm married, and leaving that door open a little bit.
I'm married means I'm not supposed to not know.
Right.
I'm married means a lot of things. It's an excuse, not a no.
All right, for calls that go to voicemail, nobody wants a TLDR, or rather a TLDL, didn't listen, right? LOL. What are some successful messages that get folks to return your call? So let's talk about this both on the client side and the candidate side.
So I will tell you that a very successful one is to say very little, right? Hello, this is Jason Thibeault with More Essentials. Call me back, 630-779-0371. Now, I actually would say, I shouldn't say that's a big callback one. It's a moderately good callback one, but it has this advantage that most likely what they're going to do is go try to spell Thibeault, and they're going to type in Jason Thibeault, More Essentials into Google, and they're going to look me up. That's a second point of contact that I just made there. It means they're more likely to take my future calls. Now, as far as getting somebody to listen, again, humor and energy, match their energy, but there's no reason that you can't leave a joke or a funny comment on people's messages. If you want to get them to listen and call back, we're entering into this era where there's going to be a lot of AI that automates this stuff and maybe sends out really generic messages or boringly friendly messages. And it's going to be a lot of the same ones. Being different, being like, hi, this is Jason. I like the Stegosaurus. It's a great dinosaur, but my favorite's a T-Rex. Like, that is going to have somebody instantly remember me. Don't do it. It's a little bit too weird. But you get the idea. You want something that is going to be a little flavor beyond the generic AI that we're going to be seeing a bunch of.
Yeah, one of my favorite messages, first point of contact to a candidate, is to throw a bunch of other recruiters under a bus. So I will leave the message and I will be like, Suzanne, Tricia Tamkin, I'm a headhunter, but I'm not calling you to tell you about some amazing, fantastic, incredible, life-changing opportunity. I don't know you, but I'd like to. So give me a call back, 630-240-4454, and help me get an understanding of what the next step in your career looks like. I get a lot of callbacks on that one as a straight up point of contact. Now on the client side, nothing wrong with leaving a voicemail that says, Mark, Tricia Tamkin, I'm a headhunter in your space and I'd like an opportunity to earn your business. Could we have a conversation to figure out what I need to do to make that happen? Call me back, 630-240-4454. It's a great message, right? Just be direct. Tell them exactly what you're calling for. And if your timing is right and you get a little lucky, they'll give you a call back. Okay. All right. This one is a long one. I'm going to wait. I'm going to do some shorter ones in chat first.
You know what? I'm going to look through that one while you start to look at one in chat, see if there's any areas that I can cut down on.
Because it's a little too long. All right. So let's do Mark's question. I've been using ChatGPT to get insights on candidate response and follow-up. ChatGPT advises slowing down on follow-up versus being more aggressive. What are your thoughts on that? So we're pretty keen on 3 days between points of contact unless you're doing what we call a 1-2 punch. So a 1-2 punch would be I call you Mark and I say, Mark, this is Tricia Tamkin. I'm a headhunter. We need to have a conversation. I'm also going to send you an email to mark@goodstein.com. And you can reply there if you would prefer to speak electronically. Otherwise, call me back at, right? And then I send an email immediately that the subject line says, per my voicemail today. And the body of the email just says, as I mentioned, in case you'd prefer to communicate electronically. And so that would be a 1-2 punch that's done exactly at the same time, 2 points of contact.
But really, you're not hitting them every day. Where you go, where we like every third day, calendar day, not business day, means that you're hitting them at an uneven cycle. If you start on a Monday, then you're hitting them on a Thursday, and then a Sunday, and then a Wednesday, and it's all over the place. If it's once a week, it turns into, this is the recruiter that emails me every Friday trying to get me to leave my job. This is the recruiter that emails me every Monday trying to get me to hire him. We don't want that. The unusual pattern there means that they don't really figure it out. And the fact that it continues on the weekends is because about 20 years ago, people started carrying around devices that got emails on them, and so we can reach out to them on the weekends. They look at their phone on the weekends for more than 99% of them.
So we had the student once, this poor girl. I would never name her name because that would be mean. But we're in a client cornucopia class for business development, and we're teaching this concept, 3 elapsed days, sometimes a 1-2 punch. Your cadence should be like 15 to 20 points of contact over, a 6-week period. And she comes on and she's like, I always do 15 points of contact and I get 0 responses. Now, guys, that's not possible. You can't do 15 points of contact to the same person
and not get a response that's at least, please, for the love of God, leave me alone. Right. Someone will tell you to leave them alone if you're really reaching out 15 times to every person. What do you mean, no responses?
So we asked her, what was the elapsed time between those points of contact? if you want to guess in chat and you don't guess if you already know, but if you want to guess what the elapsed time, how much time did it take her to do 15 points of contact? 5 days. 5. Morning, noon, night. Morning, noon, night. For 5 days. Are you kidding me? I would have blocked that person before the end of the day Monday, right? You and me, Jessica, we would have those people blocked so fast. You have to give them an opportunity to relax in between the points of contact. You aren't their biggest priority. You're not. So we don't want to stalk them and inundate them. We want to creep into their periphery and let our name become more and more familiar while not aggravating them. Okay, so if you wait a week or two in between points of contact, it's like you're starting all over again because you don't have the frequency or the familiarity. Okay, all right, so I think Mark had another question here that I'm going to do.
And I wanted to say, I read through the long question, and it turned out that it was one we already answered about adjusting scripts in the long run.
Awesome. All right. Mark also said, Gemini just came out and said that they're now on par with ChatGPT plus additional tools. What are your thoughts? Yes.
I would say it's better, but probably part of that is because of the additional tools. It certainly beats it in benchmark testing. And it's also not going to have quite the same memory and personality. So if one of the things that you go to is an AI model as a pseudo-therapist, a friend, an advisor to some extent, Gemini is going to be less useful for those purposes. If what you do is you go to Gemini for a research partner, I find it to be the most useful of the three. And if I was going to a tool to be a coding partner, primarily, I'd go to Claude. Incidentally, so does Grok and Copilot and ChatGPT, OpenAI. They all also go to Claude for their own coding. OpenAI's ChatGPT 5.2 was written with Claude.
And then they kicked him out because they're like, hey, you can't use our tool to make your tool that competes with ours, which
it's literally in the terms and conditions.
It's really funny, right? So yeah, Gemini rocks. Gemini's deep research is like nothing you have ever seen. It is absolutely amazing, okay? All right. A prospective client said they can't honor my if you place them because of me, I get the fee, regardless of whether or not a different recruiting agency introduced them recently or they applied directly, because they feel like it conflicts with their other recruiting vendors' terms. Other than to ask for a list of candidates the other vendor has presented to them, what can I do here? Hey, you already know what to do. Ask them for the list of candidates that have already been presented. Here's how you sell that. I'm really good at my job. And that means that if you have a candidate that is already interviewing through another firm, I will find them. And if they're already engaged in the interview process and I don't know that, I'm going to call them and I'm going to reach out and I'm going to recruit them and I'm going to present your opportunity. Now, I want you to imagine what happens if a candidate is actively interviewing with you and then I call them and present the exact same opportunity that they're interviewing for. They are either going to think that your company's right hand doesn't know what their left hand's doing, or more importantly, they're going to assume that they're no longer viable for the role since you're still actively recruiting against it. So I need you to give me a list of every candidate that is currently in play, currently in process, and that needs to be a living document. When you get a new candidate in process for this role, you need to notify me so that I don't do anything to mess that hire up for you.
But here's my promise, then I won't call them about this role and mess it up.
Right. If you tell me who it is, I'll leave them alone. And then that makes it so that there isn't anything muddying the process or causing additional conflict for this role. So if that was your question and you were like, other than ask for a list of candidates, you knew what to do. Ask for the list of candidates. You just have to present it in a manner that shows them why it's important for them. Because they're going to be like, hey, you're a headhunter. I'm not giving you other candidates' names. And then you're like, ooh, but what happens if I step on your other recruiter's toes and I mess up a deal for you or a placement? We don't want that to happen, right? Okay.
So if you could hear the smoothness with which Tricia answered that objection, it is certainly one that she has answered hundreds of times.
I've done it hundreds of times. I do it in expectations with a new client. I tell them one of my expectations is that you have to tell me every single candidate that you have from any source interviewing for this job so that I can protect you. Okay? All right. How do you re-engage with a hiring manager or HR who you can't get to communicate with you? We've had a positive communicative relationship for a couple of years, but for the last year, I can't get her on the phone or get her to respond to my emails. She is the director of HR and ignoring me.
Well, business relationships change. One of the biggest problems that we see as recruiters with especially small to mid-sized companies is we help them get a lot of good people in place and they get a little too big for their britches. They grow and they decide they're going to have a talent acquisition team or at least one person, and they're going to start saving money on these hires. Sometimes they're a little bit afraid to tell us that, and sometimes they just don't have the budget right now and they're embarrassed to tell us that as well. I would say keep pushing against somebody until they tell you to go away.
I would go in slightly different direction with it. I would be super vulnerable. Call that person and leave them a message. And the message should be something like, Julie, it's Tricia. And this is kind of hard. I'm not totally sure what's going on, but I feel like I must have done something that really offended you. And I don't know what that is, but I can't see another reason why you've been ignoring me like this. So if you could find the kindness and the grace to help me understand what it is I've done so that I can make sure that I don't treat other clients of mine this way, boy, I would be eternally grateful. Like, make them feel bad.
Something like that, I would love to twist it on its ear a little bit. Like, I hate to leave you another message when we haven't responded to the last couple, but I think maybe you did something to offend me and you're worried about the conversation, but I don't remember what it is and you're forgiven. So just give me a call back.
I love that, right? That's the exact flip of what I just said. You can go in so many different directions. One of the things to keep in mind is if they're not returning your call for a year, you have absolutely nothing to lose. Nothing. There's no relationship there if they've ghosted you for a year. And so that should give you the permission to step outside of the box a little bit, right? Like, you can be more aggressive or more vulnerable or funnier. You know, you can be playful with it. People like to work with people that they have fun with.
And if they don't, what are they going to do? Not hire you some more?
Right. There's literally no downside to it.
I want to read this one because I certainly have an answer, something that we occasionally recommend, and it's so fun. What would be a great guarantee for a headhunter to have? Ripping up all norms, what would be ideal? What would be truly unique? I'm sick of the full replacement, time-bound guarantee we offer and want to have something that offers true value to customer, not that limits warranty. 5-year replacement guarantee.
5-year replacement guarantee. This is so clever, and it's really just strategic business development.
All right, so I am going to step through the process. So it's simply a prorated guarantee. If anytime in the first 60 days they were to leave for any reason or you need to fire them, of course, I'll just replace that person right away, 100% guarantee. And then here's how the proration works after that. You can use any numbers for the following. So, meaning what times and dates and all this, I'm just using this for a 10-year period or a 5-year period. You could do 10, but 5-year period. So first year, you will have a 25% credit effectively, and then the 35% credit, then a 65% credit. Ultimately, what this is it's a marketing discount. They come to you in year 5 and say, yeah, that person you brought us, they left. All right, now you're doing a fee, a replacement with like a 20% credit. Well, that's a client that has come back to you 5 years later for no marketing for 20% off a single fee. You would pay for that. That's not, if your fee was 25%, 20% off, and at the back end becomes there, and it doesn't have to be 20%. You play with the numbers. You just make it a prorated guarantee. So over time, what happens is people aren't likely to leave in the first year. If you really look at it, for most of our industries, the percentage of people that leave in the first year is usually around 1. So that's the easiest one to have bigger numbers in that looks very valuable. As you go after that, you have to remember that what you're doing is, if it's a 40% discount at year 2 that they're getting, a 40% credit against the fee, that's just, sometimes the cost of business to keep the client without having to do any marketing forever, because they're probably going to replace that role every 5th year.
Yeah, my favorite way to handle a guarantee is to reject it. Okay, so I say to a client, confused, like, I don't really understand. Help me understand what you're looking for. Like, I don't determine the job needs to be filled. I don't write the job description. I don't make the hiring decision. I don't come there and perform on the job. I don't manage the person that you hire. Are you asking me to guarantee that you make a good hiring decision? I don't think I understand. Right? That stops people in their tracks, right? Because we really are guaranteeing that they make a good hiring decision. So if you can change the frame for them, often you can get into a different kind of conversation. Like, I might follow that up directly with, do you have a lot of issues where you're hiring the wrong people and they're leaving quickly after you hire them? Talk to me about that. Help me understand what problem we're trying to solve. And I just reject it completely. Right? I don't like guarantees. Usually the guarantee I give is, if the person doesn't last 30 days, those are my payment terms. My God, don't pay me. Right? I'm okay with that. If you hire someone and they didn't last 30 days, I mean, guys, what kind of jerks do we have to be like, you still owe me $50,000 even though they only made it for 10 days. Like, no, that's not right. If they don't make it the 30 days, I don't expect to be paid, but I'm also not going to guarantee that you're good at your job. We could give them a guarantee we have control over, right? I'll guarantee that I show you 2 candidates that we both agree are qualified, or one that you hire. And if I can't do that, I'll give you your engagement fee back. That one actually lands really well also.
All right. This next one's calling itself a time management question, but a little bit I'm going to call it a prioritization question. I'm juggling 8 open recs right now, and I feel like I'm constantly switching between tasks and making real progress on any of them. Do you block out specific hours for sourcing versus interviewing, or do you focus on one role at a time until it's filled? Tricia and I don't always do this the same exact way, but I would say one of the key things that I would do here is switch between tasks rapidly as soon as either you run into a situation where you're not getting traction somewhere. Yeah, I consider that like the rocking the car out, right? What a lot of us do in terms of work, in terms of recruiting, we got a role we're not getting traction on, so we just try harder. We accelerate it in the mud, and we don't know why we're not moving faster. Other people go, you know what? I'm not working on that one anymore. I'm not getting anywhere, and they start rocking the car back and forth. They find a way out. They start getting traction somewhere else. Now, if you are actually getting traction, the next thing that you should be doing is again changing direction. Oh, you know what? Looks like we're going somewhere now, but I'm not supposed to be pointing this way. What should I be working on now that that client said yes, I should do something else? If you keep going between different tasks, what will happen is you'll basically level things off. If you focus entirely, for example, on the one role you're trying to fill, you'll fill that role, and then you'll have to start recruiting or start trying to do BD on new roles, and then you'll try to fill those roles, and it'll become a roller coaster effect that isn't smoothed out. And your prioritization will always be focused on one thing, which is great for that one client. It's not great for your wallet.
No, it's not. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 questions that have been sent in an email.
I was so worried you were counting pages of questions.
I was not. And then we still have probably 5 or 6 that haven't been answered in chat. So, do you guys want to stick around? Like, should we keep going
Should we
with
go
this?
longer on this, possibly the last Rack Friday, or should we just end it?
Give us a yes or no in chat. You guys want to stick with us and you want us to keep going? Because, yeah, I'm seeing the yeses. All right, so here's what I'm going to do, and I don't do this often. We got to take a 5-minute break.
I need fresh water.
I need a bathroom so badly you wouldn't believe it. So I'm going to put a note up on the screen that just says, 5-minute break. Whoops. 5-minute break. Be back at, what is
2:02.
2:02 p.m. And we will pause right now and we will come back to you in 5 minutes or less. So take a moment. Well, man, look at that. We were able to go to the bathroom and refill our drinks in a whole lot faster than 5 minutes. So if you stepped away, sorry.
We're still going to answer questions and use the time wisely.
Yeah, we are. All right. So next question. What would you do? I have a client who's decided to give my candidate monthly projects versus hiring him full time. I'm not doing the back office payroll and I'm trying to determine a fair fee. So we have a couple options with that. I think the best plan is whatever they're going to pay the person, okay, is how you calculate the fee. So like, let's say they're going to give them $5,000 a month and it is a 4-month contract, right? So if your fee was 25%, then your fee would be $5,000. Okay, so then you tell them, hey, if you extend past the 4 months, I'm going to keep billing you. And you can do standalone billing around that.
Now, the other way around this is to stand strong and to say full fee. What they did is they gave you a job requirement. You found the person that they were choosing that they feel like is capable of doing the job. And instead of hiring them, they found a way around hiring them. From a number of standpoints, what they owe you is a full fee.
Arguably, yes, they do. But
they just got themselves a little rent-to-own situation to discount it. Now you get $5,000 over 4 months, and then they extend the person a full-time offer. It's a little fuzzy to me. I would not trust that client.
I would also just charge them $12.50 a month, right? For however long they keep the person. And if they keep them for a year, let them keep them for a year, right?
Right. Or tell them like, hey, you know what? You hired them. You want to do monthly projects with them. The fee would have been this amount of money. We'll just do that as a 12-month payment plan.
Right. All right. After 15 years of recruiting experience, I'm seriously thinking about giving it all up. I see everybody else swimming in jobs and an abundance of clients, but I cannot pick up new jobs at the moment, and it's been the same for over 4 to 5 months. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I have over 200 emails going out the door a day with personalized approaches, follow-ups, calls booked in, and yet I can't land a single client. I've gone from getting 1 to 2 clients a week to 0 in 3 months. Either I've completely lost my touch or something is seriously up. It's getting me down, but I don't know what to do or how to change as I'm a lone independent recruiter. So I am going to make an offer to whoever this person is if you're still listening, okay? And don't hijack this if it's not you, because I can go back and see who it is. I just don't know right now. If that's you, send me a recording of your call, because it's virtually impossible to dissect what you're doing wrong without actually listening to it, but you're doing something wrong.
Now, I can tell you something that I hear that I start building a story for, and I don't know if it's an accurate story. When I hear I have over 200 emails that are personalized going out a day, the typical way in which somebody would do that is template personalized with AI. And that's not a personalized email. If it's not, what you're sending out is 200 AI written emails a day, what people are seeing is 200 AI written emails a day personally, not just from you, but from all sorts of people marketing to them or trying to sell them something in some way or another. And that's a lot of personalized emails for me to think that it was one-on-one personalized.
Well, and how would you have time to follow up if you were actually personalizing 200 emails a day and you were doing that for real? You would never be making phone calls.
Right. You'd be looking into the people to just, make sure that you were writing the right things about them. 200 separate people, and that's a day. That's 1,000 in a week. So we're probably using AI there, which means we're probably sending AI writing, which means it's probably not engaging. I would say the big problem is unengaging writing, because you can't send 200 emails a day and have no response.
Right. Okay, Michelle, if you're still here, take your questions and send them to me in an email, and I'm going to answer all of them. But man, you've had some cold calling issues all morning, and I'd be happy to answer all of them for you. Just send it to me in an email, okay? All right, David. This is an interesting question. Who are you passing the baton to? Your efforts have been greatly appreciated, and I only wish I had heard about you both years before I actually did. Thank you for the kind words. Much love and respect and positive vibes for you both in your retirement. It's one door closing, but another amazing door is opening. So we don't have anybody to pass the baton to. Okay, we don't have anyone. I think there's
and I'm not going to be mean to any recruiter or anyone in any industry. We have terribly high standards, and even like if you were to look at one program, AI4, that is 2 hours a week. It is hundreds of articles read and digested, and also there's a weekly class that goes out. It's so much content, and with a specific lean towards ethics and kindness and a way of delivery that we wouldn't pass that baton on.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have anyone to pass it to, okay? But
plus, no one's funny.
No one's funny. It's interesting because it leads right into kind of the next question that came in from email, which is, where's the best place people are getting their VAs from, right? And one of the things we are doing, you may have heard at some point in some training with us, either one of us talk about Faraz. Faraz has been our VA for almost 10 years. We went through 7, 8, 9 VAs before we got to Faraz. And Faraz is one of the greatest human beings I have ever had the privilege of knowing in my life. That man, in almost 10 years, I could count the number of mistakes he has ever made on one hand. He is the best virtual assistant ever in the history of VAs. So here's what we're gonna do. Poor Faraz is like, are you really retiring? We are, but we're going to take care of Faraz. So over the course of the next couple of months, we are going to help Faraz build a VA firm specifically for the recruiting industry. He has supported many of our clients over the years.
And us.
Yeah, well, clearly. And he has had a team of, up to 5 people, maybe 4 people that have worked for him. And so what we're going to do, because he's fully, completely trained by us, what we're going to do is help him launch a VA firm where he is essentially in charge of all quality control. He checks all work before it goes to a client. And I think this will be a tremendous, tremendous way for you guys to get VA support. Now, you don't have to use Faraz's new company, which will be hosted at morefaraz.com. It's not built yet, but that's where it will be. If you're hiring a VA, there's a couple of things that you really need to keep in mind. If you're a good prompter in AI, you'll do good managing a VA. If you struggle giving detailed instructions to an AI, you've got to build that skill before you hire a VA. The quality of the work output that a VA does for you is 100% contingent on the quality of your instructions. Okay? So what you're going to want to do, anytime you give a VA an assignment, you're going to want to do it in a video format. You do the work first and you see how long it takes and you let them watch you on video do whatever it is you're going to have them do.
Ideally, you're narrating that along the way so that they are, both hearing and seeing how to properly do the task. And then you're going to multiply it. How many times? How long? What are they doing this for? And, give them a little bit of a break. If you record it and you're like, all right, it takes me 1 minute to do this every time I update a record. And so I expect 60 an hour. Well, no, you expect 50 an hour. Turn it down just a little bit. Say 50 an hour. Let's see if we can get 400 of these done by the end of the day. Right? You set some standards and goals while you're communicating and showing them that, because otherwise you might get back 4,000 records and 800 hours of bill.
Right. The other thing that is just gold when it comes to a VA, right from the start of the relationship, make them send you an email at the beginning of the day that's basically like their time clock. Like, I'm going to start my day now. Here are the things that I'm going to be working on. So it's basically like their plan for the day. Then at the end of the day, have them send you an email that says, I'm done working for the day. Here's what I accomplished and approximately how long each thing took me. If they don't send you the email in the morning and the email in the evening, it's like they didn't punch a time clock. We don't pay. The only way our VAs get paid is if they check in the morning and tell us what they're going to work on, and they check in the evening and tell us what they accomplished. So I would highly encourage you to do that. It has saved us tremendously. All right, let's go back into chat here. Victoria asked, what's the problem with Zoho? Just signed up for it to send emails. If it's not Zoho, who do you recommend? Victoria.
We wouldn't disparage Zoho.
I'm not going to give you the reasons why. I don't like Zoho. I don't like them. I think that there's some fundamental issues with the company overall. And I'm not going to give you the details about it. I'm sorry. I don't like them. I wouldn't use them. So stay away from Zoho. Tim asked, what about Perplexity? Tim, stay away from Perplexity. Perplexity is awful. Perplexity is unethical. That breach I told you about that was identified in August of last year, where people were losing money from prompt injections, they knew about it and they didn't tell anybody for 8 weeks.
Because they didn't want to tell anyone until after they figured out a fix.
But it wasn't fixed even. They just had to tell people at that point.
Eventually, because it can't be fixed.
Yeah, Perplexity is a, Like Perplexity and Grok could like go away as far as I'm concerned. Right?
I do want to give everyone a warning. As more things are becoming AI powered, you can talk to an AI and make it do what it's not supposed to do. They're putting AI in kids' toys, and then the kids' toys are teaching the kids where to find matches and how to light fires. And I'm not even kidding. That's not at all sarcastic. This is a real thing. AI inside of devices that you are using can be turned to malicious use against you by somebody who only knows as much hacking as language. Right. They don't need to have any technical skills. They basically just have to keep talking to the AI till it lets them do something bad.
Right. Now, David asked, what are your thoughts on HubSpot? I have a totally different opinion about HubSpot. So, and this is important. Pay attention to this, David. HubSpot rocks, okay? HubSpot will give you their free CRM. It doesn't have like recruiting-based workflow stuff in it. Like you can't track like submittals to send-outs or first interview to second interview. But if you use it as basically a data repository, which is how most people use their ATS systems anyway, it's 100% free. And there are caveats. Let me give them to you because they're really important. We use HubSpot. HubSpot is our backup for all data. We keep all data in HubSpot as a backup while we move between different systems because it's free and it's easy to import and export. But there's a reason they give it to you for free.
It's their best tool.
And they have some salespeople that you would not believe how good their salespeople are. So I would say, Victoria, you asked if not Zoho, what? I would actually go with HubSpot, but only with the caveat of never, ever take a call with a salesperson there. Don't do it.
They will, for most of them, successfully upgrade you to a plan you don't need.
They did it to me years ago, and I generally feel like I'm pretty good in those situations. But man, HubSpot can suck you right in with stuff that you don't need. So use the free version of it, and stay away from all salespeople. Don't even engage in a conversation. Just stop it from happening because you could get sucked in like I did. Okay, so please don't talk to the salespeople there. Sherry asked, would we have Faraz reach out to us? So Sherry, at the end of today's session, a survey is going to pop up. The third question in that survey is whether or not you have any interest in having part-time or full-time VA support through Faraz's new company. So
click yes for that one.
Click yes for that one, and that puts you on the list, right? Okay, next question here. How do you decide when to use legal action, as I have had attorneys as clients work around matters to avoid payment through unethical measures?
Yeah. Well, and I certainly see that in the bigger description of an incident that you gave us directly above, where the attorney waited to find out what the name of the hiring firm was, and then did the workaround to go directly to the hiring firm. Now, in a case like that, I would actually argue that you full legally have procuring cause. You were the person that convinced that attorney to pursue this placement. So workaround or not, they're getting billed for it. That's one of the direct ways around dealing with unethical people is when they do something unethical, ignore that it's unethical and just bill them as appropriate. Like, oh, they were trying to get around it, but could it have been an innocent mistake? Let's start by invoice.
Yeah. The other thing that you can do is if you have especially a lawyer, and you have an opportunity that's non-exclusive, and you're worried about protecting your client, that they're not going to go directly to them, say to your candidate, and an attorney will appreciate this, you know what, Mara, I would be so happy to share with you who my client is. Of course, you need to know that in order to decide whether or not this is a viable opportunity. I'm going to send you a non-disclosure agreement. It's a very generic boilerplate NDA. I'll give it to you where you can just click it in a DocuSign. And as soon as you do that, I'm going to share with you exactly who this client is. And then your NDA, non-disclosure means they can't go to the client. They signed a non-disclosure agreement, right? So you can actually circumvent that problem by asking them to sign an NDA before you tell them who the person is. Okay?
You use a little bit of the law against them in that case, though this works anywhere. I would also say, specifically with attorneys, before I would go to any level of legal action, if they're doing unethical things, report them. Report the firm. You got screenshots. It's better than Yelp. It has a real impact.
You could also go to the company, the firm that they went around you with, and throw them under a bus. Throw the candidate under a bus and say, hey, you know what? I know my job is to fill roles for you, but my first job is to protect you. And I had a conversation with this candidate who I believed was viable and could be a good fit for you. And despite the fact that I made him aware of the opportunity, he lied to me, went around me, and leveraged relationships to try and get in the door with you. And I would be remiss as your advisor if I didn't share this information with you so that you could make an informed decision about the ethical standards that you want in the attorneys that you bring into your firm. Throw them under a bus. If they're going to act unethical, then maybe they should have to, stand up and explain that unethical behavior. That's my opinion. All right. Here's a long question, but it's really, really interesting. I would be interested to know whether you have any advice about a subscription model versus the standard charging a percentage of base salary. We have a client, we charge 18%. We recruit for 2 of their sites. They've asked us to bid for sole recruitment responsibility for all 14 sites, and in return, they want a lower percentage. I was thinking of proposing a subscription model. Great for us. We get regular income. Good for them. They can manage their budget. We can sweeten the deal with offering a value add project every 3 months, like competitor mapping or a salary survey, whatever they need. The service is usually chargeable, $3,000 to $5,000 depending on the project, but I think we just give it to them in this model. So our average fee is about £11,500, and we've made 5 placements in the last 6 months, and that's just for 2 sites. So there are 2 choices. Drop the percentage down to 16.5% of base salary and get paid per placement, or offer the subscription model, which we still need to think out a figure for. All right, so
Tricia has actually successfully set this up with a number of different clients along the way.
I love this model.
Yeah, and it works out very well. So I'm just going to let her take it away. I'll just shut my mouth.
Anytime you can give up a little bit of revenue for consistent monthly money, take it. Okay? Like we tell you, premium fees. I always want you to get premium fees. But I'll give up some premium fees if you're going to pay me a lot of money every single month, and I don't have to have the uncertainty in my finances or on my desk. Because once they start doing that, it gives you the ability to take a higher stance with every other client. When you have, 20, 30,000 pounds coming in a month, when someone else says to you 18%, you can be like, oh yeah, sorry, I won't touch that for less than 25. Because you've already got your financial foundation in place. So what I would do to try and calculate out the dollar amount, I'm going to change your fee just for ease of math, okay? Let's say that what you did was you made 5 placements and the average fee was $10,000, okay? I dropped it for easy math. But let's say that 5 placements, $10,000, that's $50,000 in 6 months across 2 sites. So over a year, that would be $100,000 over 2 sites. and we're going to do 14 sites. So your total contract value would be 700,000 pounds. Okay. Now, 700,000 pounds is a whole lot of money. I would give them an absolute discount on that. So if I take my 700,000 pounds and I divide that by 12 months, that comes out to 58,000 a month. What I would do is say I can save you 15% across the board on the whole thing. It's 50,000 pounds a month, and I'm going to include for a year, and I'm going to include in that whatever the number of placements was. I'd have to count it out. But if I don't make all of those placements, you'll stop paying at 12 months, and I'll keep going into the first quarter of next year or the next quarter post a 12-month contract in order to fill the remainder of the jobs. I love this model and would highly, highly encourage you to pursue it. Okay? All right. Next question. What is your number one coaching tip for those who choose B or C in the poll? Like they're not rocking. They either have one client or they're feeling like, things are going okay, right? It's either consistency or kale. Yeah, it's consistency and calls, okay? It's phone time. What it really comes down to is phone time. We all want to send some emails and make 50 grand. And life doesn't work like that. What we have to do is focus on not your call volume, your call time. I will take an employee that does 4 hours of call time but only has 4 one-hour calls over an employee that leaves 150 voicemail messages in 90 minutes. The volume of calls doesn't matter. The time on the phone does. It is the biggest direct indicator of revenue in our industry over every other metrics. Every other metric.
Yeah, sometimes you'll hear me talk about this in terms of how close our influence is with somebody. If I email you inviting you out somewhere versus I give you a call, who are you more likely to accept the invitation for? Two equally attractive people invite you on dates. One has called you, and at the same exact time the other emails you. Who do you say yes to? Person on the phone. If I change this around and I make it a person on the phone and a person standing right in front of you, you're going to go with the person who is physically closer to you right in front of you. And if I take texting and I put it in there, it probably falls somewhere underneath phone but before email in how close that communication is. Now where all this is important is calling is basically as close as we can get that's not showing up in person. But showing up in person matters too. I knew a recruiter who was basically the only recruiter that got hired for manufacturing throughout all of North Dakota. She did not live in North Dakota. North Dakota is cold. That's why it has North in it. Instead, she would fly to North Dakota several times a year into the 2 bigger airports, 3 really, and she would rent a car and she would go in person, and she was the only recruiter who actually showed up. So if I've got a choice between a recruiter who's actually in my office and willing to talk to me and actually hear my needs, or somebody who's only willing to email, it's going to go to the person who shows up. Phone calls are closest high volume show up method.
Yeah, I would agree. This question cracked me up, and I know who sent it in. If you're here and you want to own it, tell me you're still here in chat. My question is, how long do we have left as a country? Just kidding, I think. That question made me bust out laughing when it came in. I'm not going to address that question because, we're trying to stay upbeat in today's Rack Friday. But the real question here was, What are the pros and cons of Gemini versus ChatGPT? Since I use the Google Suite and they're raising my price because of their investment in Gemini, I'll just go with that and stop paying ChatGPT $20 a month. They seem pretty darn similar, but I want to make sure I'm not missing something. I'm still mostly using it to ask questions about a variety of subjects, including the kind of questions I would have asked an IT guy at a company if I ever had problems with my computer. I do that all the time. My point is, I don't need it to be super robust.
Then Gemini. You were right on the right track there. You're already paying the upgraded amount. If I was doing one at this use level, that's what I would do. If you said you were also, consulting it daily because you were, talking to it as a friend, I might warn against that psychologically, but say that ChatGPT has your better memory for stuff like that. It's going to be a little friendlier for stuff like that. But for everything you're using it for, I would go Gemini.
And then I might add a little Claude there, right?
Free levels, at least.
At least the free level. And Rich asked in chat, did you get the reduced price email change from Claude? I got it this morning, and I was a little kind of ticked about it because I have to look at it and see what the amount was, but my annual renewal went through for Claude, and I think it was $200 for the year, so it was $16 a month. So yes, I just renewed at $16 a month for a year, which is kind of fun. All right, next question. The best of plans is to be amazing on my desk, so easily can be torpedoed by what's closest to money. This week has been a prime example. I'm trying to plan, I'm trying to be proactive, I'm staying on top of email, which is my lifelong Achilles heel, and then good activity happens, and I feel my desk tip completely out of balance. The entire day can then be reactive and not at all proactive. Now, a huge part of my desk is being reactive to my husband's desk, who I support. He is my hero and hard to keep up with at times. I know we make a good pair and we balance each other out, but I'm really struggling with feeling the wins when I'm almost always feeling like I'm behind the 8 ball.
You need help. The two of you need help. What you have going on here sounds like you would make more money and have a easier time celebrating and achieving your own wins if you weren't your own job person and your own husband support person.
Yeah, you need a VA. Click that third box when you do the survey when you leave. Like, you need a VA. Like this, you're too busy. So in the short term, the only way to not be reactive and to be proactive is to first recognize one very important thing. No deal is going to fall apart because you didn't respond to an email for an hour. Let me say that again. No deal is going to fall apart because you don't answer an email for an hour. That doesn't happen. So if you have a plan for the day and you have things that you need to get done, right? Whether they are things on your own desk or things supporting your husband, it doesn't matter. If you decided that those things were priorities, then those things need to be prioritized over anything else that comes in that day, okay? The things you decided needed to be done, you decided needed to be done yesterday. You own that decision, and I want to empower you to maintain that autonomy. Ignore the reactive things. Ignore the things that aren't more important than the plan that you had. Now, the caveat there is if your husband comes to you and says, hey, this is a super big priority and I need you to focus on this instead of these other things, then you shift and you focus on whatever your husband just told you is the most important thing to focus on. I find that if I can sit down at my desk and knock out all of the things that I decided needed to be done, then I'm actually more generous with the reactive things, right? I do a better job with the reactive things once I take care of my stuff first. So remember, you always put your oxygen mask on yourself before you help the person next to you on the plane. Because if you help the person next to you before you put your oxygen mask on, you're going to lose consciousness and not be able to help anybody. So your oxygen mask first, okay? All right, let's do another one here. My question has to do with the idea that the client keeps moving the goalposts. It's a TA, recruiter liaison person. And what I mean is this. The client says to me, we need your help filling these 5 jobs. I do the intake. I understand the priority. 5 days later, I submit 3 candidates only to be told we have an offer going out for that position. Client says an internal candidate came forward. Then they add another job, rearrange the priority, so off I go, retooling my search. A few days later, I host an update call. The priorities have changed again. Another offer is going out, and again, it was an internal referral. I'm going to keep going here because this is the same one, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. One of the offers they extended was rejected, so now the job is back on the priority list. I submit a candidate on the same day, and they are interested and they want to talk, but then they go silent. I find out later there's an internal candidate who emerged, and now they're in the final interview this past Wednesday. My candidate's out in the cold for the second time with this client. The hiring managers are leaving most of the communication with the TA team, and I feel like when I bring this to the VP, it sounds like I'm complaining and whining. I've made money and I want to stay engaged with them, but their communication is sorely lacking. How do I manage this?
Well, I would say your specific situation is absolutely screaming for an engagement fee.
God, yeah.
Even if it was a very minimal one. And I know Tricia will probably disagree with me on that because she charges better than I do. But what I mean by a minimal engagement fee is $2,000. It's a little bit of skin in the game. However, the contract would also then include what the role was for. Change the role, that's okay. They can change the role, $2,000. Cancel the search because they filled it internally, that's all right. They already paid you $2,000, right? Some sort of minimal engagement fee. Now, part of what will happen is they'll get real sick of paying you $2,000 really fast and their behavior will change.
Right. I agree with that. All right, here's another one. In a retained search with mandatory relocation requirement, if a candidate who is just laid off explicitly states that relocation is very unlikely, do you disqualify them immediately to protect the hiring manager's time, or do you allow a brief conversation to test their flexibility given their new circumstances? I would go to the client and be like, hey, I've got a guy, and I'm not even sure whether or not I should show him to you. He fits every single thing you're looking for. But when I talked to him about the opportunity, he told me that a relo would be highly unlikely. Now, you're a good salesperson, Mr. Hiring Manager, and we both know how good this opportunity is, but I have a concern that I don't want to waste your time with somebody that we might not ultimately be able to attract. So my question to you is this. Do you want to spend the time with a rock star candidate that we'd have to convince to relo, or should we just respectfully and gracefully step him out of the process and not bother? Don't you make the decision. Let them make the decision, not you, okay? Oftentimes as recruiters, we let them make the decision. We don't let them make the decision. Give me a yes in the chat area if you've ever had this situation. You have a candidate, maybe it's like this, they said highly unlikely. Or maybe you just didn't feel like they were all the way there for what the client wanted, so you didn't present them. And that exact person got hired. You knew them, you knew the candidate, and they got the job. Here's what that is. And I'm gonna give you some tough love, okay? That is your insecurity about your work performance. That's what that is. It's insecurity. It's fear around not presenting a perfect fit. but there isn't a perfect fit.
No one's a perfect fit. The perfect fit would work for free and do the job better than anyone ever has. And you know that's not going to happen, right? Perfect is this fake standard.
And so don't you make the decision. Anytime you bring a candidate to a client that doesn't totally fit, do the word track I gave you a moment ago. Hey, I got a guy. It's a really good guy. He fits everything except this one thing isn't a fit. And I heard you when you told me how important this one thing was. And so I don't want you to think I'm not listening to you, but boy, I think this candidate has potential. Would you be interested in talking about them? Make the client decide. Okay, we have a whole program in the library that
Lower your standards.
Jason wrote this program, guys. It'll knock your socks off. It's called Lower Your Standards to Increase Your Revenue. And it deals with this whole idea of how do we overcome the insecurity of constantly needing to over-deliver. Because when we feel like we need to over-deliver and that candidate needs to be perfect, we lose money. And I don't want you guys to lose money. Our whole job is to help you make more money, right? So
let me give you a quick example from that program. If you were to go on 100 dates over the course of the next year, basically 2 dates a week, to meet that number, you would probably have to lower the standards. They've got to be 100 different people. And if you lowered your standards and you went on 50 or 100 different dates, you would absolutely have some people that ended up being way better dates than you ever expected. Except as recruiters, as soon as we keep our performance standards high, we're at 1 date a month, and we're not going to have nearly as many good surprises. We don't have the opportunity for it. We need to let people surprise us. We need to lower those standards, because sometimes our clients don't even hire who they say they're going to hire.
Gosh, how often they don't hire the people they say they're going to hire.
May have been literally the last question.
Right, how about it? All right. Next one. What is your advice on the updates regarding screening calls? We're finding it harder to get through or even leave voicemails. All right. So there's a lot of automated systems now. And what the automated systems do is they're like, hey, say your name and the purpose of your call. And then the person gets to decide whether or not they're going to take the call. And that makes it very difficult. So you have to do a couple of different things with this, okay? You either have to be so engaging in that 15 seconds that they have to take the call, right? Like whimsical, funny, like, Jessica, I'm Tricia. We have to talk about this opportunity. Okay. Like, I didn't tell you what the opportunity was. I didn't tell you what my last name was. I didn't tell you. But if I can get like real intense with you, right, maybe I can get through.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially if you are getting through 2 voicemails. Now, there are systems these days where what you get is like a massive group voicemail box for a whole department or even a whole company, and you don't feel like you can leave an individual voicemail anymore. Pay for cell phone numbers. Make sure your recruiters aren't afraid to engage with a cell phone, but people are more likely to answer their cell phone, and you can text them.
Right. Okay. David asked, what are your thoughts on PIN and Juicebox? So I have not put hands on either one of them. I did the PIN demo when Rich brought them into our group. And Rich said earlier today, he's done over $500,000 in revenue using PIN. I think PIN has tremendous potential. I don't know a lot about Juicebox. I'm so much more of a person that, like, rather than buying all of the AI tools, I just want to speak to the language models the best way that I can and go directly to the source. Instead of buying a lot of sourcing tools, I want to just know Boolean well and speak directly to Google and go right to the source. So I'm not an awesome person to ask the question, to because I just don't use a lot of tools. What I have used my entire professional career is my brain and Google. And I've done really well with that. So that said, Pin, woof, Rich is loving Pin right now. Absolutely loving Pin. Okay. All right, let's do a couple more here. This one, cold emails, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay is the answer. We'll finish the whole thing here, but yay is the answer. At this point, the only time I think of using email is when I've exhausted calling or even LinkedIn without any traction. It's funny because sometimes in the past, the only response that I was getting from prospects was through email. It's like they didn't know I called or reached out via LinkedIn, so it's worked. Currently, I haven't been using email, but I'm considering trying it when the prospect doesn't have LinkedIn at all or hasn't connected, or I can't find a valid number to call. So here's what I'll tell you, Michelle. First of all, email, way better than LinkedIn messaging. Because we all spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but if your candidates are not salespeople or recruiters, they might log into LinkedIn once a month. Like, LinkedIn is not the right place for that. Email is the right place, and it is their business email that you're going to send your emails to. Okay?
And again, or text. If you can get that cell phone number and send messages through text, that's even closer, I believe, than emails. People are more likely to look at and respond to any individual text message.
Right. All right. We have a couple more. I have 4 more questions in here, but I have not scrolled through chat. So what that means is if you put a question in, okay, into chat and not QA, and it has not been answered, you will need to paste it right now. You can actually repaste it into chat. I'm fine with that. But we're going to address these last few questions, and then we're going to tell you a little bit more about some programs. All right. Next one here. Some folks are using we talked about that call screening, right? You got to just be real, like, whimsical, funny. Like, if they're like, tell us who you are, be like, it's a secret. You're going to have to talk to me to find out. Right? Like, just be playful with it, Michelle, and see if you can get them through. If you do your normal full name and you don't get through, wait a couple of days and try again, and don't tell them who you are. Say, no, it's a secret, and I'm only telling you who I am if you get on the phone with me. Choose yes. Right? That'll be fun. All right, next one.
Gunny has asked, on the legal note, have a client we placed a CA with who got fired in the second week for good reason. Totally different personality showed up for work than the interviews. Rather than going through the interview process, they want a 10% refund of the paid fee. It's tempting because I hate them, but it seems like a bad idea. I get that it seems like a bad precedent, but I would accept that all day long.
So would I. Oh my God. Like, so if the fee was $50,000, they want $5,000 back. I would do that without a hesitation to not have to do a replacement.
Especially if I hate them, because I don't plan on working with them again. Keep my 90% and you can have your 10%, and we'll just agree to not be friends.
Okay. Next question here. Sherry, I don't totally understand it. Have you noticed that in Google, if you put someone's name in with LinkedIn, it's not going in?
I imagine what you mean is if you do a targeted LinkedIn search and then add somebody's name, it doesn't show up with their name. It typically doesn't. If you want to find somebody inside of LinkedIn that way, the best way to do it is inside of LinkedIn with their actual name, not as a Google search.
Right. All right, 2 more, guys. Here we go. We can pitch an actual firm that's interested in meeting with him. Oh, I think this was an extension. I'm going to actually stop that one. Sorry. We'll do one more here. Sorry, Michelle.
Last question, Gunny.
All right. You can cut me off whenever you want. We saved the best for last, Gunny.
What are you talking about?
All right.
You off.
Had a candidate go in for their final interview and offer today. Woohoo! This morning, the hiring manager called me because he had just been fired. The hiring manager was fired? That is so fascinating. He offered to make an introduction. dripping with soured caution, understandably. Should I reach out to the CEO direct or let the fired hiring manager introduce me, or both, or walk away? I would reach out to the CEO directly. I would not. There's this thing called a halo effect, right? It's why they put naked women in bikinis to sell cars and beer. Okay, there's a halo effect, and you don't want the fired hiring manager's halo.
Right. And in fact, I suspect first of all, if you hadn't said soured caution, if you had just said, he offered to make an introduction, he had already talked about me with the CEO, then sure. Soured caution says go directly to the CEO, and maybe the CEO even asked, hey, who's that recruiter you've been working with? There's probably a reason. Instead, take the soured caution offer like this. Oh gosh, no. I want you to take me to your new company.
There you go. I want you to take me to your new company. I don't even know if I want to work with this company that fired you, so don't introduce me. But then you go to the CEO, Gunny, and you try to fill that job, right? But you tell the candidate, I don't know. Like, you're telling me all this bad stuff. I'm not totally sure I want that introduction. Let me go with you to the next place, and I'll help you fill jobs. That's brilliant, Jason.
Thank you. I like to end on a high note.
All right, but there's still a couple more in chat. All right.
Never mind. It's a low note.
What is PIN? PIN is an AI-based automation program that populates data for you, sends emails for you. It kind of runs in the background. As I understand, it is fairly complicated to set up, but once it's set up, it works really well. All right. Next question here. The staffing conference in Austin. Do you like this? Because I found that there's some real douchey business owners.
Yeah.
We will not be at the staffing conference in Austin. We won't be there. And yes, Michael, we are retiring. Like, that was the big announcement at the beginning of this session. We are retiring because we can. Because
there's work-life balance, and it is time for the balance.
Right. Okay. So, one more question. Lance, you're so funny. Would it be probable that you would call the police on us if 25 or 30 of us show up in your yard at the same time? Depends on whether or not I'm showered and dressed. If I'm showered and dressed and you show up and I know who it is, I will come out and enjoy the time with you. If I am not showered and dressed, I won't call the police, but you'll think no one's home. Okay.
I will warn you, to surprises, my fear reaction is aggressive.
Yes, yours is, right? Okay, so let us stay with us for 5 more minutes. We'll do this super fast for you guys, okay? Why is this program free? Because we love you and we want to elevate the entire industry. We want you to make more money.
Because when you make more money, you can buy more stuff from us.
Right, yes, you can. All right, so if you are not interested in investing in any of our training for our very last year, then leave. Go. We're not going to be mad at you. You have work to do. We've already kept you here for almost 3 hours. You're not going to offend us to leave, okay? So, real quick, there is a survey. You can complete the survey. It would make me very happy. It'll pop up in Zoom, or you can certainly use the QR code. I'll tell you in a minute, Michael. All right, the complete library. We built this. It is everything we have ever developed. We did a demo of it at the beginning of this session. There's a 30-minute video walking you through the whole thing. And it is on the complete library page, which is right here on there's the video, 30-minute video. And I am on camera for some of it, guys, which is really fun. So you can come into the complete library when you're on our homepage. You can see the retirement announcement, Michael. And you'll go offerings, complete library. Okay. Everything that you're going to look at from this point forward is right under offerings. So The discount is only valid today and tomorrow. That's it. Okay. It will be $15,000 in a one-time purchase or $1,500 a month for a year. We are not going to give you financing upcharges if you decide you're going to buy today or tomorrow. It's just $1,000 a month for a year. But on Sunday, the price goes to $15,000. It's already $15,000, but you have a coupon code. The coupon code is congrats, okay? And the price goes up every quarter, okay? I'm so sorry about that, Casey. I'll look into it and fix it. My guess is try maybe a different browser, okay? That could be the problem, is the browser. All right. We are still going to continue teaching AI for recruiters for the rest of the year.
All the way through the end of the year, every Wednesday at 3 p.m., you can still buy it.
Yeah, and if you buy it now, we're going to let you access the recordings. Even if it's just this one class, we're going to let you access the recordings through the end of 2027. You won't be able to download them and keep them. You can only do that in the complete library. But if you're feeling behind on AI and you can't afford the $12,000 right now, this will change your entire desk, okay? Additionally, we will keep doing e-sourcing. It's on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Central. It'll run for the entire year. And we are teaching the full program with AI integration in bite-sized chunks throughout the year, turning it into micro-learning that will be loaded into the complete library.
And be fresh and live with the newest stuff.
And you are able to just do this program if you want, right? You can also come into Rich's program. For those of you that don't know Rich Rosen, he's impressive. He is a $1 million to $1.7 million biller. He's a Forbes top recruiter, a Business Insider top recruiter, a Pinnacle Society member. And on Thursday mornings, Rich and I run a really lively group. We argue a lot because we do not agree on a lot of things. There's a lot of right ways to do this business. Rich and I usually end up in the same successful place, but we do it differently. And so this, if you want to go into his program with me on Thursday mornings, you can. It's only $1,800 for a whole year of weekly sessions. Rich is determined that we should not be charging so much money if our real goal is to be able to elevate the industry. And so this is the cheapest program I have. The fact that you can have Rich Rosen and me live every single week for $1,800, $1,500 a year if you do it in the next day or two. But all three of these programs, including the live sessions, are all included in the complete library. Okay? So that is going to wrap us up. And look at that. We only went an hour over. So I am going to I can't help it, guys, with some of the other questions that you guys have put in here. I am going to try and answer them, right? Okay. So you mentioned everything works with the current version of ChatGPT. If that changes in 2027, would we have access to the actual prompts to make the changes so it's a tool we can continue to use? Diane, that's a lovely, lovely request. I can't make the decision without an offline conversation with Jason, but I wouldn't take it off the table. Okay? So maybe. We'll see.
I'd have that discussion.
Okay, we'll have that discussion, and I think it's something that that we can explore. All right?
And Tricia always prefers you to ask and have us say no than for you to have wondered and never asked.
Right. And so, Michael, I'm just going to show you this. If you're on our homepage, if you want to read the personal goodbye, I did this through tears at the beginning of the session. But it'll give you a little bit of a sense here of what we're planning on doing. Like, we really are retiring. Like this, it's time. It took Jason a very long time, I would say more than a decade, to teach me when enough is enough. Okay, I'm always about more placements, more revenue, more clients, more investments, more rental properties. Like I just more, everything. Welcome to more essentials. But we have enough. We have enough. We don't need to work anymore. And so we're going to fulfill our requirements as of next week. Jason and I will only work on Wednesdays, and I'll still be there.
Thursday.
I'll still be there on Thursday mornings, but I'll be done at 9 in the morning, and we will essentially have a 6-day weekend for the rest of this year until 2027, when it turns into a 7-day weekend, which I'm very excited about. That's cute, Shane. Enough Essentials should be the new website. It's not, though. It's still more Essentials. So, guys.
The company isn't getting closed down, as you hear. We're still selling the complete library. We're still servicing clients, and of course, still guarding that copyright.
Yeah. Nope, we're not moving to Florida. We're staying here. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for indulging both of us, even though I did all the talking. Thank you for letting us share with you this major accomplishment in our professional lives. And I really hope it's aspirational for you. I hope you look at it and say, wow, Jason's 50 and Tricia's 52 and they're out. They're retired. Start making that plan. Get there as fast as you possibly can. No one dies and says, boy, I wish I worked more. No one does. And we certainly won't.
No.
All right, guys. Thank you. Rich, the survey will show up when you log out, or go ahead and just hit that QR code, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you guys. We adore you. Hopefully we will see you in sourcing on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and AI4 on Thursdays at 3 p.m. or in Rich's group at 7:45 a.m. all time Central on Thursday. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.